Gonçalo, Gonçalo, rega a mesa do pão é constantemente incrível. De manhã à noite nunca passa o apetite, é insaciável. É verdade, ele engole tortas, bolos, pizzas, massas, batatas fritas e toneladas de arroz. Ele não deixa nada no prato, ele é um verdadeiro ovo sem dúvida. A família dele está preocupada, mas ele não quer saber. Para ele comer é um verdadeiro prazer. Ele só pensa nisso de manhã à noite e ele não consegue parar, mesmo que seu estômago doa. Engole tortas, bolos, pizzas, massas, batatas fritas e toneladas de arroz. Ele não deixa nada no prato, ele é um verdadeiro ovo sem dúvida. Um dia ele vai ao médico porque não se sente bem. O médico diz que ele precisa mudar seus hábitos alimentares. Caso contrário, ele terá sérios problemas de saúde. Engole tortas, bolos, pizzas, massas, batatas fritas e toneladas de arroz. Ele não deixa nada no prato, ele é um verdadeiro ovo sem dúvida. A família dele está preocupada, mas ele não quer saber. Para ele comer é um verdadeiro prazer. Ele só pensa nisso de manhã à noite e ele não consegue parar, mesmo que seu estômago doa. Ele engole e vai ao médico porque não se sente bem. O médico diz que ele precisa mudar seus hábitos alimentares. Caso contrário, ele terá sérios problemas de saúde. Gonçalo decide seguir o conselho do médico. Ele começa a comer alimentos saudáveis e balanceados. Ele se sente muito melhor, está mais feliz do que nunca. Ele finalmente entendeu que precisava mudar seus hábitos. Batatas fritas e toneladas de arroz. Ele não deixa nada no prato, ele é um verdadeiro ovo sem dúvida. Um dia ele vai ao médico porque não se sente bem. O médico diz que ele precisa mudar seus hábitos alimentares. Caso contrário, ele terá sérios problemas de saúde. Gonçalo decide seguir o conselho do médico. Ele começa a comer alimentos saudáveis e balanceados. Ele se sente muito melhor e está mais feliz do que nunca. Ele finalmente entendeu que precisava mudar seus hábitos. Gonçalo, rega a mesa do pão é constantemente incrível. De manhã à noite nunca passa o apetite, é insaciável. É verdade, ele engole tortas, bolos, pizzas, massas, batatas fritas e toneladas de arroz. Ele não deixa nada no prato, ele é um verdadeiro ovo sem dúvida. A família dele está preocupada, mas ele não quer saber. Para ele comer é um verdadeiro prazer. Ele só pensa nisso de manhã à noite e ele não consegue parar, mesmo que seu estômago doa. Engole tortas, bolos, pizzas, massas, batatas fritas e toneladas de arroz. Ele não deixa nada no prato, ele é um verdadeiro ovo sem dúvida. Um dia ele vai ao médico porque não se sente bem.
Hi guys, welcome back to another live stream. I hope you all had an amazing day. So today we're gonna be talking about the harsh truth, guys. Welcome to the live stream. Welcome. Before we get into the content, we're gonna explain you guys what we do here in when you call about the harsh truth. What we do here is we talk about the last updates, what happened or that happened in the war, especially right now, America, Israel against Iran. Not only that, we do talk about other stuff, about reality of things, about how women are these days, how men are these days, how society is these days, pretty much in general. So that's pretty much the point of this stream, so I can keep you guys a little bit informed about how things are when it comes to the war, but more than that. Don't forget to follow me on Kick. We're trying to reach 800 followers. Not only that, we're trying to get verified. So don't forget to participate in the chat. Drop a sub if you want, of course. Or just enjoy watching the stream. Would be a great help for helping us reach the verification. Not only that, we do stream at the same time on YouTube. So don't forget to hit the subscribe button. We're trying to hit 100 subs. We're currently at 85 subscribers. So don't forget to hit the subscribe button. Go check out the additional content I give to you guys on other social media. So don't forget to follow me everywhere and enjoy all the content. And big thank you for your GoTo for the affiliation. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Now, as you know, we do get all your information from the experts here. The two, honestly, the best experts that I've noticed so far. And that have connected the dots perfectly to the point where they actually pretty much predicted where things are going right now. Which is Myron Gaines. As I said, don't forget before in every single stream, don't forget to hit the subscribe button for him. Go subscribe. Just a guy that knows how to extract the information, show you the proof, and connect the dots. Same shit when it comes to Riyadh. He knows how to extract very well the information, connect the dots, and make sure that it makes sense and that it pretty much predicts where things can go. So let's get on into it. So let's go into the war conflict, which is pretty funny because we didn't expect, more like we expected things to go this way, because we know how things are. We know, come on guys, we know this shit, bro. We all know this shit. We all fucking know. But let's go into
Trump
it.
is kind of wrestling with the fact that he strategically lost, and the only thing he could do at this point is launch some kind of ground invasion or continue to bomb them.
Again, this is the last update for the past week. What happened in this past week?
And see what happens.
Just let
But
you guys
he's
know.
got to get some type of W because his.
I almost forgot. Dark cannot hear, see, or anything, or you watch the stream. Are you watching the stream? Just to make sure.
A bit occupied
Okay.
at the
Okay.
moment. So even if we wanted to watch, I would be a bit too concentrated for that.
No, but at least if you on your other screen, if you can watch, at least you can even if you were not seeing, you can hear. At least that.
Here I wouldn't be able to do that, bro. I am locked in.
No, I'll show you, bro. I'll show you.
No,
can show you.
because no, it's fine.
It's too late, bro.
The special noise,
Hey, the special noise. Here comes the special noise. It's important.
special forces.
This is important for everything, even for games. By the way, it is connected to games. But just to let you know. But let's continue.
uranium operation failed. The problem with the U.S. is they don't understand. You don't have the leverage anymore, dude. The Strait of Hormuz is closed. Your allies in the Gulf are getting completely pummeled. The Houthis are probably going to come in and get another 10% of the world's energy held hostage again.
Oh yeah, but I almost forgot. Let me reduce the noise. I almost forgot because that sometimes
I would
can
argue
overrun
that
the
our
audio.
behavior has, if anything, justified and made them say we need to get a nuclear bomb even more so. This aggression is going to make them rush towards a nuclear bomb even more so. It's the complete opposite effect of what they're trying to do.
Netanyahu was asked about.
Thank God.
Sorry, there was claims that Lebanon would be included in this new extension of the ceasefire deal. The Iranians asked for Israel to announce it first, and Netanyahu came out and announced that he's going to continue his war with Lebanon. So that's the latest news on that. Just want to welcome Myron onto the stage. Myron.
Oh, what a fucking guest! That finally there's maybe an agreement between America and Iran. But guess who's the one who fucked everything up? Of course, of course. Who would have guessed? I would have never guessed that the Jews, the Zionists, Israel would never have a peace treaty Never. Who would have guessed the country that used America to go to war with the whole Middle East? Who would have thought? Who would have thought? Is that right, my nigga? Who would have thought? Ah, Dark, who would have fucking thought? Wait, hello?
Yes, yes, I do hear you.
Oh yeah, sorry, my
Occupied.
no, it's not that. It's just my audio. My audio on OBS was on the global audio, not my microphone audio. So I thought my mic was not working, but now it works. But who would have guessed that they don't want peace? They want to kill and destroy everything. Who would have guessed? Who would have guessed?
I wouldn't
You wouldn't do. We wouldn't want.
guess.
Okay.
That's it.
Sometimes you give some weird answers. Like tomorrow I'm gonna be like, yeah, let me re-see the stream, bro. And it's like you're saying random shit, and you're gonna be like, what the fuck am I saying here? 100%. Because I'm gonna remember I do make clips myself as well. So you're gonna be like, what the fuck? Why did I say this? But yeah, as I was saying. Who would have guessed that the Zionists, Israel, the Jews, would never accept the fucking peace treatment? Who would have seen? Who would have seen? Who didn't predict this shit? Bro. I think at this point we know who actually is the bad guy. I think we know, right? I think we know. I think Israel and Zionism and the Jews are the bad guys here. Let's be honest here. Let's be completely honest here. They are actually the people that want to make shit even more shit than it already is. Worse for everybody. They are the ones that want this. And I have one thing to say. Every country in the world is seeing this, right? Why are we letting this happen? That's the only thing that makes no sense to me. Is there's many proofs that Israel clearly does not want Iran to even exist. They clearly want the whole Middle East to disappear so they can create the promised land, do the third temple, and have a full-on control over the Strait of Hormuz and the other strait where all the fucking oil comes from, pretty much. Or most of the oil of the world. Why are we letting this happen? I would love to follow through this nonsense that clearly makes sense that they're connected right there. I would love to know how it came to this point. What's funny is Jesus had literally predicted all of this happening, which is pretty funny. It's pretty funny. In the Bible, he spoke a lot about the...
Bro, he was speaking facts, bro.
No, he was not speaking facts. He just predicted what the future.
Bro, he was speaking facts, bro.
Like he predicted that Israel would have a rain of fire, which is literally missiles. It was a symbol of missiles.
Predicting when you know already what will happen.
I mean, it is predicting, yeah.
Is it now?
We mean, is it now?
How are you?
Well, didn't he know already?
Hey, what's up,
all
man?
of This?
No, he didn't know. He predicted. He had a vision of the future.
Yes, so
He didn't know
can
it.
just
He didn't know. He saw the future, wrote it in the Bible. People read the Bible. People that follow him read the Bible. So who he predicted this? Like I'm sorry, like he predicted. Like you cannot say otherwise. That's the meaning of predicting.
Saying otherwise, but okay.
No, what you're saying, your argument is what you're saying is he knew, but what do you mean he didn't knew? He had a vision, so he predicted it. He didn't know it. But this, what pisses me off is the other countries know that this is wrong and they're doing nothing about it. What pisses me off the most. Because we all know who the problem is here. We all know. We all know, but we don't want to fucking admit it. We don't want to admit it. We don't. And we don't want to make things better for everyone. They clearly don't. Because if they wanted to, they would have done it and reacted a long time ago. But anyway. Oh. I almost forgot. Thank God I remember right now. I need to change my camera position. I need to change all of this. No, why you change? Why you do that? Okay, I'm gonna give you the guys this at least, because this, at least we can see Myron's face, and things
Can
end
you
up
guys hear
being
me
normal.
good or
So,
no?
Yeah, we can hear you.
yeah, who would have predicted? Who would have fucking predicted? So, Israel is entering Lebanon and trying to conquer Lebanon to be part of their pretty much their territory at this point. If you have to be honest, that's pretty much what they're doing. They're pretty much doing a full-on invasion at this point. If you think about it, they're pretty much doing a full-on invasion. So this is the beginning of the end, guys. The fact they're just trying, the fact they have the audacity to enter Lebanon, trying to conquer Lebanon, it just shows that they're 100% trying to make the promised land. They just started the plan right now by trying to conquer Lebanon. That's the proof right there. That's all I'm saying. But anyway, let's keep going.
Really well.
Okay. No, I'm on stream right now. I figured I'd come in. Somebody asked me in my chat to join in on the space. So I wanted to see what
Yeah,
was
give
going
us your
on.
thoughts about what's going on. We've not heard from you in a while. What's your thoughts about the
336 kilos, zero death.
negotiations,
God,
ceasefire
no.
negotiations? We're in the middle of it. There is conversations about a 2-week extension. What do you think? What do you think's going on?
I think Trump is starting to realize that he's lost this war strategically and he's trying to kind of find an off ramp, or also the other option, or what he could be doing also, which, you know, I wouldn't be surprised if he's doing this too, is feigning diplomacy to buy himself some more time so that he can, you know, mount some type of ground assault. But I think a ground assault at this point is going to be catastrophic. We know that they already took the L a week or two ago with the black operation they were trying to do with, you know, trying to steal the uranium. And I think that was the whole reason he was, you know, doing the whole Karg Island bullshit, saying I might negotiate, I might not. We might destroy their civilization, we might not. I think all of that was, you know, to give himself time, letting the oil prices spike up. It was all to give himself time so he could go ahead and steal their uranium, because if he stole the uranium, he'd be able to say, okay, I did what I was supposed to do. I got my off ramp, I got my W, I'm going to pull out now. But since he couldn't do that, now he's kind of stuck, because it's like, all right, what am I going to do now? Because I don't have a diplomatic off ramp. I still want to have these maximalist demands. I don't have the uranium, so I have nothing to show for this war. And if I pull out now, I'm going to look weak and I'm going to look bad. But what he doesn't realize is, like, we've already lost this thing strategically. And I would agree with Dr. Robert Pape about this. He said that he thinks Iran's going to emerge as a fourth world power. I think so too. I actually agree with that, because all the Iranians had to do was just not get destroyed. And they've been able to not get destroyed. They're still able to launch attacks. We can't destroy all their missile cities. The uranium is somewhere and we don't know where it's at, right? I know they had intelligence that it was at Isfahan, but that probably wouldn't have been all of it. And at the end of the day, it's just a very bad situation that we're in. I think Trump got in here with very bad intelligence, thinking that he was going to be able to get this done in a few days. And now he's kind of stuck, and he's in a rock and a hard place, because to leave now was going to make him look weak, but to continue on, he knows is going to be bad. So I think he's trying to buy himself some time, maybe for some type of ground assault, which would be a catastrophe. But yeah, I mean, JD Vance didn't make anything happen. I don't know why Witkoff and Jared Kushner are still going to these meetings. I think it's stupid, wildly disrespectful and stupid to still keep bringing them. They're both idiots. They're both Zionists. They're both friends with Netanyahu. So in my eyes, that shows that they're not serious about negotiations. And, you know, we got to figure something out here, because this is very bad.
So in terms of the negotiations, if you remember, there was claims that Lebanon was going to be part of it. It seems like Trump agreed to that. Then he got a call from Netanyahu, and 4 hours later, they pulled the Lebanon being part of the agreement. Since then,
yeah, the problem is not America. They were okay. The problem is Israel was not okay.
The Pakistani delegation,
Benjamin Netanyahu was not okay with it.
We've got the US approval. They said they're going to make Israel agree as well. They've agreed. Lebanon is now going to be included from now and included in the extension.
Okay.
Just when he said that, Iran said, look, we're going to wait for, this time we're going to wait for Israel's announcement first. Netanyahu came out and said,
Yeah.
the war with Lebanon's continuing. What's your thoughts on that?
Insane. And here's the thing. As we speak right now, there's a big battle going on in southern Lebanon. Bint Jabil, I might be butchering that, but it's obviously a very, important place for Hezbollah because that's where Hassan Nasrallah gave a famous speech back in 2000, a Spiderweb speech. And, trying to take it. Now, as of yesterday, from what I understood, the IDF did actually have it. They had it secured for a period of time, but now it looks like there's another firefight going on. Hezbollah doesn't want to let them have it. And I just saw on Rerum, they're saying Israeli helicopters right now are evacuating wounded soldiers from southern Lebanon. So they're taking some very serious casualties. I do have a pretty reputable source who told me that, well over 2 days ago, there was 950 soldiers that have been killed in this Hezbollah war.
God
It's
damn.
probably well over 1,000 now at this point because this is almost 48 hours ago. So, and then I think something like 150 Merkava tanks have been destroyed and a lot of infrastructure and assets have been destroyed. I mean, look, what I've realized about the is they can't last long when they actually start taking serious casualties. So who knows if it will force Netanyahu to the table to negotiate with them, kind of like they did back in 2024. Because, even though they killed Hassan Nasrallah, yes, they did the pager attack, etc., and they were able to bomb Beirut and assassinate some people, they were still getting killed on the ground. They still couldn't take the Litani River. They couldn't make it to Beirut. I mean, Suleiman, me and you had a whole discussion about this, about the failures of the ground assault. That's why they had to kind of do the ground assault while running the operation with the pagers, while doing the airstrikes in Beirut. They had to do all of that to get rid of Hassan Nasrallah. And as soon as they got rid of Hassan Nasrallah, they did the ceasefire and they pulled out because they can't last on the ground long. And this time it seems like they're trying to push a little bit further, but they're still getting kicked. So Netanyahu, man, and I'm seeing also with the Israelis that they're starting to get really agitated with Netanyahu because, they got to run to bomb shelters every day. So it seems like the approval ratings of the war are going down.
Yeah, although it's going down, I think the majority of the Israelis still support a war with Iran.
They still do.
That's how the society is, right?
And they still support a war in Lebanon too. Like they still especially the people that live in the north, they're tired of getting rocketed out too.
Yeah. So I guess what you're saying is Netanyahu may come to the table out of desperation, but right now he's not at the desperation point.
Yeah.
From my understanding, looking at it and analyzing it, I think he's going to start getting there in maybe a week or 10 days, maybe 2 weeks.
They're taking a lot of casualties, man.
Done now.
I think they're well over 1,000 now. I'll have an update for you in about an hour from a pretty good source of how many for killed, but the last time I checked, we're in the 900 range of 48 hours ago. So we're going to probably be well over 1,000.
Okay. I'm just reading now reports saying that the meeting between the foreign minister and the Pakistani delegation led by the army chief has now concluded. Tomorrow, Tehran will discuss with the Pakistani delegation the messages exchanged between Iran and the United States of America. So, an Axios are reporting that Trump would welcome an agreement to end fighting between Lebanon and Israel, but that's kind of where we're at the moment. What's your anything you want to add on that?
Yeah, I know Marco Rubio yesterday, if I'm not mistaken, was leading talks between Lebanon and Israel for the first time in almost 40 years or so. And, they're trying to do something. But the thing is that Hezbollah has a significant amount of influence in Lebanon. And honestly, I think people probably support Hezbollah more than they support the Lebanese government because they look at it like the Lebanese government is to Israel. And, Israel, says, oh, yeah, we want this buffer zone. We want the security zone in southern Lebanon. Translation, want to steal more land like they did with the Palestinians. So, and then there's too many Lebanese.
That's
right
exactly
now
what they're doing.
So it's
they're
like,
conquering more
I
land.
think the Lebanese government is trying to come to the table, but, the people are like, no, that we don't want to disarm because these guys are going to keep taking land from us. And if Hezbollah is disarmed and they get rid of, what's to stop the Israelis from having more aggression and attacking Lebanon?
Yeah. Exactly. Now, coming back to the war, do you think that this is going to go back in? You mentioned this already. I already asked you, but I was speaking to a number of military analysts, and they think that the war, and these guys have been on point, they think that the war is going to continue. They believe that these negotiations are a charade.
Yeah, they're charade, 100%.
Yeah, like I said, I think Trump is kind of wrestling with the fact that, he strategically lost. And the only thing he could do at this point is, which kind of is horrible, is launch some kind of ground invasion or continue to bomb them and see what happens. But he's got to get some type of W because his uranium operation failed and we know he's not going to leave. So he's going to have to get some type of W. And yeah, I do think that the war will inevitably start again. He's trying to buy some time. Because the problem with the U.S. is they don't understand is you don't have the leverage anymore, dude. The Strait of Hormuz is closed. Your allies in the Gulf are getting completely pummeled. The Houthis are probably going to come in and get another 10% of the world's energy held hostage again.
True.
And it's
the Houthis are going to come back probably as well. That is true.
That wanted to come to the table. The Iranians have there's
Yeah, that's probably what's going to happen. Is they're going to probably, that's probably what's going to happen. Is that the fact that they have finally understood. All the Muslim countries come together. I think what Jesus meant is Iran, Lebanon, and the Houthis. I think that's what he meant. I think he meant them specifically because they are the ones literally against this stupidity of fucking thinking in horrible way of life in reality. Holy shit! Now it makes sense. Now I think here's my theory. I think when Jesus meant at least all the Muslims will finally be united is I think the Houthis, Lebanon, Hezbollah, and Iran are gonna finally actually attack Israel at the same time, and Israel's gonna fall. That's my prediction. I say this because it just makes sense, because right now Yemen, nothing. We haven't heard anything. We haven't heard anything at all. We just hear Lebanon, Hezbollah, and Iran just constantly attacking, constantly doing what they need to do, pretty much, and closing the Strait of Hormuz and shit like that. And from what I can see is, I think Yemen is gonna be at a certain point they're gonna come in. That's what I see. And they're gonna three-way attack fucking Israel, and Israel's not gonna be ready for that. Israel's gonna die. Israel's gonna fall because of that. I understood finally what he predicted. I think he predicted this. I think this is what he meant. And then after, especially after when Israel falls, now literally all the Muslim countries are finally gonna be able to be free and actually unite completely. I think it just makes sense. It's the thing that makes sense the most. Because right now Yemen hasn't done shit. They've done nothing. They're like waiting for their like a moment to strike. Because remember, there's two straits. The first strait, Iran closed it. The second strait, Yemen, if they want to close, they can close it. That's how scary right now the situation is. And remember, Yemen is with Iran. So that's all I'm saying. That's all I'm fucking saying. Holy shit. I understood. I understood how things are pretty much... I think that's what's gonna happen. I think Yemen is gonna join the war. They're gonna... All three countries, Lebanon, Iran, and Yemen. So Hezbollah from Lebanon, the Houthis from Yemen, and then Iran are going to attack three ways. Israel, they're not going to be able to withstand everything. I don't think so. I don't think they're not going to be able to withstand. I think it's too much. They have to... If I had to predict what they're going to have to do, one way to retaliate is using a nuke. Which we all know they have. They have illegal nukes. We all know that shit. We all know. That is 100% true. We all know they have illegal fucking nukes. And the fact that a country like that fucking has illegal nukes just shows how fucking shit the system is itself. Let's be honest here. How can a country have illegal nukes, bruv? So every country in the world has to be undocumented in the system. They have nukes. There has to be checkups. There has to be everything. But Israel, nothing. No. You can have nukes, so we don't need to do anything. How does that make sense, bro? Explain to me, bro. Makes no sense. But you know, I think this is what's going to happen. I think Yemen's going to end up joining the fight at a certain point. They're going to close the second strait. Yes, that's probably what's going to happen. They're going to close the second strait. It's going to be a global pandemic when it comes to the economy. It's going to be fucking chaos. They're going to fuck up Israel badly to the point where they're going to have to be desperate and actually negotiate, or they're gonna throw a nuke, an illegal nuke, by the way. Which at the end it does not gonna matter. One, Israel is probably gonna fall, and that fight is gonna be able to unite all the Muslim countries. At the same time as someone has to take a hit, which probably is gonna be Iran, because Israel really doesn't want Iran there. So probably gonna use desperately the nuke into Iran. That's probably what's gonna happen. I think now it's since now we know how things are going right now. I think that's my prediction now. But yeah, but let's keep
no
going.
benefit to them negotiating at this point unless they get all their demands met, and that's why they have these requirements. Like, we don't want to get attacked again by Israel. We don't want you guys to attack us again. And we're going to make money off the Strait of Hormuz. That's how it's going to go. And I would argue that our behavior has, if anything, justified and made them say we need to get a nuclear bomb even more so. Like, this aggression is going to make them rush towards a nuclear bomb even more so. It's like the complete opposite effect of what they're trying to do.
Yeah, I agree with you. What's your thoughts on Iran agreeing to a ceasefire? Do you agree with the decision from the Iranian perspective, or what's your thoughts on it? Some people think that it wasn't a great decision. Others think it was a good decision. What's your thoughts?
I'm surprised they agreed to it, but they probably want to get, from what I understand, that they've been getting some support from China. China's been getting them some resources. Some of the rocket fuel and some other stuff has been coming in. So I think for them, since they've been getting hit really hard from an infrastructure standpoint, they probably needed it. But I'm surprised they even came, because honestly, they just keep attacking Israel, and Israel can't really, what are they going to do? Just bomb things above ground more? Like, they could keep attacking, is running out of interceptors. And I would be shocked if had even more than a month or two of interceptors left.
Yeah. I mean, they are definitely running out. And so I guess from Iran's perspective, though, because I've obviously got quite a lot of sources on the ground in Iran, and also I've been reading up quite a bit on what's going on. And there is a bit of dissent about this ceasefire agreement. People are not happy with it. People feel it's weakness. They feel that in the negotiations that maybe Iran has been too weak in agreeing to.
No, they're not weak at all. I think they're just buying time to get more resources from the outside.
You know what? Our way or the highway.
That's what I think.
One real agreement. From that perspective, do you think it was a good decision by them to agree to the?
I don't see, I can see why the Iranians are mad, because they're out for blood. They lost a lot of people. The school got blown up, right? Trump made the comments about a civilization might go down. So obviously, the Iranian people are very angry. So I can see why they're doing that. But I think tactically, there's nothing wrong with rearming, regrouping a bit, getting your missiles in order, and being
that's
ready
probably
for the
why
next
they're doing
part.
this.
Because at the end of the day, you're going to be able to manufacture more drones and missiles than they're going to be able to manufacture interceptors. So this period of time, I think they're going to be able to rearm themselves to a higher degree than the United States and the Gulf states, and Israel is going to be able to rearm themselves on interceptors. But I can see why the people are pissed off, because of obviously all the disrespectful things that Trump has said. And I know a lot of Iranians are pissed off about that too. Like, hey, keep attacking them. But we'll see what happens. I think both parties probably needed a break.
Now, in terms of the blockade, what's your thoughts on the Trump?
So stupid, dude. Oh my God. I don't know. In my head, I'm like, yo, this is like putting these destroyers at risk. Like, the Iranians can literally shoot, spam them with drones and missiles and sink these things. Like, they're sitting ducks. I'm like, what are they doing? What the hell is going on here?
Yeah, they could if the kinetic part of the war restarts. But if the kinetic part of the war doesn't restart, then what do you think about this blockade?
Ridiculous. It's stupid. All it's going to do is just set up more pain for the Gulf states. It's like every time the U.S. does some act of aggression, the Gulf states deal with the consequences of it. So they're going to just shut down the ports, or, if they strike them or they blow something up, they're going to blow something up over there. And then obviously, if we do get back to kinetics, the Iranians absolutely have the ability to sink one of these destroyers easily. They can spam it with drones and then shoot a ballistic missile, and they won't be able to take it all down, and it'll go down. And we're talking about sailors dying for what? For what? For this stupid blockade that's completely unnecessary? Yeah, I don't know who the hell's idea was that.
Retard.
What the they were smoking. I think Marco Rubio got drunk at UFC and said, hey, you know what we got to do? We got to blockade the blockade. Trump was like, oh, that sounds like a good idea. Let's do that. It's like,
blockade the blockade.
Yeah,
Makes no
what's your
sense.
thoughts on the
That's
blockade
stupid.
in terms of how successful do you think it's been in the last 24 hours? Do you think the Americans have managed to stop any ships going through, or do you think they've been successful? There's been a lot of mixed messages, basically, hasn't there?
Well, China came through, if I'm not mistaken. A Chinese ship went through, no problem. They can't maintain this blockade forever is the thing. So it's like you could do it for a bit, show some aggression here or there. but they're not going to be able to do this long term. And the longer they do a blockade, like a blockade is damn near like an act of war. So it's like, you know, they won't be able to maintain this forever. And I think it's putting our troops in serious danger for like very little reward.
You know, my position on the war has always been that America made a mistake going to and moving towards a kinetic warfare. And what would have been the smart decision to make is to actually choke out Iran. Now, it's a lot more difficult now because they're trying to do what they should have done earlier. But what they seem to be doing is to try and choke Iran, trying to seize all their assets and to basically begin a financial war against them rather than a kinetic one that they were losing. What's your thoughts on them realigning that and now going for that? Do you think it's too little too late, or do you think it's still a smart decision to try and choke Iran out so in the hopes that the people turn on each other?
I think at this point, there's no way that the people are going to turn on the regime or the Iranian government at this point, because Trump has made himself so unfavorable to them that there's no way that they would accept any type of Western leadership. They've already hated Netanyahu, right, since the beginning. No one in Iran likes him whatsoever. And then as far as like Trump goes, saying we're going to send him back to the Stone Age, saying that a civilization might die tonight. Obviously, now they're starting to see that the United States and were behind the riots where a lot of people died, supplying them with arms, smuggling in Starlinks, crashing their Rial, bombing them. And I mean, it just goes to like when they bomb and the people are on the streets protesting, they cheer and they say, God is great. And they say, Allah Akbar, and they cheer and they say, yeah.
They're great. But yeah, did you see that, by the way, Dark? Did you see a clip like that? Hello, Dark? Hello? Hello? Okay, he's not here. So yeah, guys, I've seen that actually. I've seen clips literally of in Iran, like a building getting hit by like an American missile or like an Israeli missile, and the people of Iran, they're like cheering. I've never seen a population like that, bro. Never seen it. They're not scared. They're not scared at all. Like, props to them because they are very, very not fearful at all. Holy shit, they have big balls of steel. Like, props, bro, props.
There's no way we're going to be able to get the people on our
Props
side
to
or
them,
Israel's
bro.
side.
They're not scared at all to die.
100% with the government, because even the people that don't like the government are going to say, you know what, we have our grievances with the government, but right now we're going to unite and stand around the flag because these people are trying to destroy us. Trump doesn't care about us. You know, it's all bullshit. They don't care. And honestly, the only people that even believe that Trump cares about the Iranians are like the stupid monarchists who are a bunch of anyway. They're all stupid and live in Beverly Hills somewhere. Yo, there's nothing dumber than monarchist Iranians. Like, they're so stupid, it's painful. Like, it actually hurts talking to them.
They aren't the smartest bunch, let's put it that way.
They're the low IQ ones. And it's always like they got a grievance. It's like they're like, oh, yeah, like, you know, the regime is so oppressive. They kill Iranians, all sorts of shit. Bro, you haven't lived there since the 70s. Like, you never even lived there. Like, your dumb grandpa lived there. He probably got his whooped by someone from the, you know, Islamic Revolution for being a loser. Like, dude, you're mad because your uncle got kicked out of Iran for being a right? And honestly, I love it too, because like they talk all the time about like, oh, the Islamic Revolution is so evil, so evil. Fine, no problem. You can make the argument that they are, but don't act like the Shah was an angel either, bro. The Savak was brutal. They were brutal. They were kidnapping and killing them, and you know, they had their own secret police. Anytime you got secret police, you already know things are going to be bad. So, you know, the problem with these Shah Iranians, these monarchs, is they expect you to not know the history of Iran. And if you actually know the history of Iran, you're and then when they say, oh yeah, the women get beat up for dressing or whatever, that's not true either. Like, there's videos out there in 2026, 2025, 2024. I see more women with their hair not covered than women with their hair covered.
Yeah, so true. That is true. That is true, by the way. Iran has one of the most severe culture, like, rules. And women these days are more free than ever. They don't have to hide themselves. That's not true. I've seen it myself. I've seen it myself. And they're beautiful women. I don't think I'm gonna say they're beautiful women. Beautiful Iranian women. I don't discriminate. I think all women are beautiful, but bro, you cannot say that they all are always fucking hiding and like covering their whole body, which is not true. There's some women that do that because I mean, they don't want to. If they want to do it, they do it. But most women don't. Like, what?
It's a lie, bro. It's all a lie.
Yeah, even if women cover their hair, who cares? What's your problem? That's their own country. That's their own decision.
Yeah, because they try to say that the women get beat up and shit, and that's not true. And it's like, I see more women with their hair uncovered.
It's not true, but even if it was true, like, what's your problem? So, like, my point is this, like, let each country run their country however they want. It's not right. I don't agree with it. But our point is, like, this whole idea that you need to be the police of the world. And
Yeah.
you need to tell people.
Being
what
the police of the
values
world
you
is
have
bad.
when
Because
many
each
of the
country
values
has
in
its
the West now,
own
what
culture,
does
or
it
its
do with
own
the laws? So
government,
it's
its
like,
own way of
who is the
thinking.
moral police?
That's how it works. You need to
So,
respect that and shut the fuck up.
and they have no ability
That's
to
how
be
it
a moral
works.
police when they've just murdered so many people and killed 168 children. Them girls would what? You prefer the girls dead rather than being beat up in the future if they really were beat up? So it's just stupid.
Yeah, no, and I agree with that. Like, yo, this is why I don't like intervention. I think, you know, foreign intervention is the dumbest thing that you could do. I don't think we should be doing it. It's not our business. Let them live the way that they want to live. And honestly, these monarch chicks, these monarch Iranians are anyway. So it's like, you know, you look at them dancing on TikTok and Instagram like they're fake. So it's like, all right, whatever, bro. You know, it is what it is.
So yeah, the first video is
This is a
done.
great explanation for
Here
how
we
this
go.
war happened in just the last few months here.
So yeah, so now we're gonna go towards where there's a what it looks like a interview between Myron and Scott Horton,
It was that the
apparently. So here we go. I didn't see this.
They
So
lied Donald Trump into war. He's filled his head with and he believed it because he's stupid. And then he made bad decisions based on those lies that they manipulated him into believing. Donald Trump got sold this idea of just power and unstoppable strength,
True.
and then believed that he could get what he wanted
True.
simply by ordering that things explode. And then he came
But
to find out
didn't
the hard
work.
way that, like, no, that's not true. This is a giant nation of 100 million people with 2 giant mountain ranges, and they've had 30 years to build mid-range missiles. And now what are you gonna do?
So
True.
we bombed them on the 28th, right? And the war's been going on. I think, you know, we can both probably agree that Trump thought this thing was going to be a lot faster and shorter, almost like a Venezuela, and it's gone on way longer than he expected. I'll kind of just leave it open to you so you can talk about the current conflict, how we got here, the nuclear discussions as far as like, you know, us trying to, you know, they can't
nuclear my ass. There's no nothing there, bro.
Kind of go through with
No,
this.
no.
Yeah, okay, so the first thing is, I guess, to debunk the lies of the motivations for the war, the excuses for the war. The first is the nuclear program. The second
Which
is
is,
their support for regional terrorist groups.
but-
And what the hell, I'll think of the rest in a minute.
Yeah, they always use
this
their biggest
program
backer
and
of
such.
terror, death to America, the Barrack
slogans,
bombings.
all the
yeah,
chants
we
they
go
get,
through all
they
of them.
get us so upset. So look, the nuclear program is like this, man. They developed it during W. Bush. They really, you know, got it up and going in his second term.
Bush 1 or Bush 2?
And
when they
and so what it was is it's
the
a
nuclear
civilian
program.
nuclear program. And
was it Bush 1 or Bush 2 though when they developed it?
oh, Junior, no, W. Bush. This century.
Early 2000s. Okay.
Yeah. So, you know, they had a nuclear program, a fledgling nuclear program of a different description before even built by the United States back in the 70s. Their medical isotope reactor in Tehran, for example, not. But they didn't have a domestic uranium enrichment system. Now, let's steel man this thing for a minute and just pretend to hate Iran for a minute, but not be liars, okay? So if we're totally skeptical of their motives and intentions here, Myron, then you can look at the non-proliferation treaty's protection of their right to a civilian nuclear enrichment program as a huge loophole. It allows them to master the fuel cycle. It allows them to perfect the mechanical processes necessary to convert uranium metal to gas, to uranium hexafluoride gas, and then enrich it up to whatever percent they want in their uranium cascades, which are these giant collections of aluminum tube centrifuges where the gas passes from one centrifuge to the next, to the next, to the next, to the next, down this cascade is what they call it, as it gets higher and higher, enriched the percentage of 235, which is the sweet stuff.
And you're saying them being
238.
you're saying them being on the NPT allowed them to learn and master this process, which allows you to enrich at the 90% weapons grade by being a signatory.
Well, no. So it allows them to master the ability to enrich to any percent
That's
that
what I
they
meant,
wish.
yeah. Yeah.
Right. Now, they
They
have
have the
never
skill set.
enriched up to weapons grade.
Yeah.
But they could. Right. So now.
And that was from being in the
From the point of
NPT,
view-
right? This is for them
Yes.
being in the NPT. Okay, non-proliferation treaty.
Right.
Sure, go
Okay.
ahead.
So let me explain that real quick. For the nuclear weapon states who signed the NPT, which is all of them except, well, North Korea, India, Pakistan, and Israel, but the rest are all members of the NPT. And we promise that, oh, one day we'll get rid of our nukes, which is BS. But more
Yeah,
importantly,
that's
we
not
promise
true.
not to proliferate nuclear weapons to our allies or anybody else. And then the non-nuclear weapon states promise never to get them. and not by hook or by crook or by making them or whatever. Now, they could withdraw from the treaty and make them. Any nation can. But as members of the treaty, they promise not to. And they also agree to have a safeguards agreement with the International Atomic Energy Agency, which means that you have essentially international nuclear inspectors and cops standing around with seals and cameras and scales verifying that all the nuclear material is where it's supposed to be and is not being diverted to any military or other special purpose. So Iran, as a member of the NPT, they've had a safeguards agreement, and they had IAEA inspectors continued to verify the non-diversion of nuclear material to any military or other special.
Who would have guessed? There was people that knew the truth. They were not touching uranium. Because if they would have actually fucking touched the fucking uranium, let's be honest here, the organization that he just explained right now would have said to the whole world, or he would have said to all the governments, to be careful. Or he would have said something, they were preventing something. But no, that didn't happen. We didn't hear nothing about that, did we? Interesting.
Special purpose over and over again, especially under Mohammed al-Baradei, but even after that, under Yukiya Amano was his name, and these other guys who came later who are, more conciliatory to American aims and accusations here. They all still have to admit there is no nuclear weapons program there. They're not making nuclear weapons.
Oops. What the fuck is wrong with my camera? What the fuck? Why is my camera? Why is my camera like this? I think we're good like this. There you go. I like it was weird. Did it moved? Sorry guys, I have it's slightly less big. Okay, we're good right now. It's okay. Sorry guys, but just I was looking at my OBS and it's like something was off. I had that feeling that something was very off. So I had to do some little changes.
What they were doing, which they never said this, okay? But again, I'm trying to steel man this argument and say, from the point of view of someone who's a hawk but not a liar, let's look at this, in the most kind of
we're going to take the neocon angle.
We're
going to take the neocon angle so people understand.
Right.
Okay.
So what they did was they got themselves in the position where they could break out, as they call it, and try to make a nuke. So they've mastered the fuel cycle, basically, is the point. To the Israelis, this is absolutely intolerable. This is no different than them having a nuclear weapon. So the Israeli position to the Americans has been, get in there and bomb them. And the American
we all know this.
position has been, no, we're not going to get in there and bomb them over their civilian program. Bush de facto accepted enrichment. Obama officially accepted enrichment.
Which they have the right to do, right? Because they're signatories of the NPT.
Which they had already the right to do,
Since they're
yes,
part of the
under
NPT.
the NPT. But see, the Israeli demand is that they don't. So the Americans are saying, okay, I'll tell you what, don't break out and try to make a nuke. If you do, I will bomb you. Okay, the Israelis want me to bomb you now, no. But if you try to make a nuke, then I will. I'll bomb you before you finish, so don't. Then the Iranian response was, we're not making nukes, so don't you bomb us. And then implicitly, they never said this, but again, we're being hawks here. Implicitly, they're saying, if you bomb us, well, then we might. Because we know how to make weapons-grade uranium if
interesting.
we choose to. So don't put us in that position, all right? That was what they were doing. That was the form of the standoff, okay? But then, last June, Netanyahu convinced Trump, and they called the Iranians bluff. And they launched an aggressive war. And they bombed their nuclear program. Well, two major results of that. The first one is they really did set the program back. I don't know if you can say obliterated, but they really put them back years and years and years. They basically buried the Natanz and Fordo facilities deep, and they completely destroyed the conversion facility at Isfahan, which is crucial for, that's how you take the metal and turn it into uranium hexafluoride gas, which you need to put it in the centrifuges and enrich it. Then you got to be able to turn it back into a metal again. And so you can't do that without your conversion facility. So they really have been put, if not back to square one, to square 2 or 3 or something. They really got their kick last June. After all, America has the power to put bunker busters on targets, man. And now remember, their symbolic retaliation was 14 bombs and deliberately missed and warned ahead of time, please shoot them down. A symbolic response only against the United States. They hit Israel, but they didn't dare hit the United States. The old Ayatollah did not want to get into a war with America over this stuff.
Scott,
he was telegraphing, do not want to fight. Go ahead.
Question for you. I've heard from people, I think John Kirikow mentioned this, that the reason why we got involved in the 12-day war and bombed their nuclear facilities is because Netanyahu and the Israeli government were threatening to use nuclear bombs against Iran because they were getting pummeled so bad during the 12-day war by their ballistic missiles. Have you heard that as well, or do you agree with that, or do you not agree with that?
No, I don't know that that's true.
Okay.
I don't know that it ain't, but so I'm not like disputing it, but I can't verify.
You haven't heard it. Okay, no worries. So we bombed their nuclear capabilities during the 12-day. Go ahead, sorry.
Yeah. So now it's funny, man. You know, you could bet, and you'd be right. You could find the article. It's in Time magazine that came out a week or 2 weeks ago, and it's about Trump seeks off ramps from Iran war. Something like that. You probably pull it up, and it's definitely in Time. And in that article, Netanyahu tells Trump after the war last June that, guess what, Donald? Now they're more likely than ever to go ahead and try to make a nuke. What?
Interesting.
So we got to finish the job. It's not complete without regime change. And hell, now that we bomb them, now they're more likely to make a nuke than ever before. So we got to start again. And then after this war started,
Interesting. So oh, you son of a bitch, Netanyahu. So he used the 12-day war for an excuse or a push for Trump to go to war with Iran. That piece of shit. He's such a piece of shit. Because they were not going to do nukes. But now that they were in a war for a month, now they got the push to make the said nuke. So they are trying to end the world. That's what Israel is trying to do. They're trying to fucking end the world, bruv. Look at this shit. So they pushed Trump to go to war with Iran. Iran, because of what happened, got the push to make the nuke now. You son of a bitch, fucking Israel. You're a son of a bitch.
he did the same thing. Again, essentially conceding that they weren't making nukes before.
So Benjamin Netanyahu used the 12-day war to push Trump to go to Iran, and that said thing alone pushed Iran to go towards the nuclear now.
But now they're going to. Now we put
It
you in
went-
such a
it-
position
it
that
went
now
to
you
a
really
full
have no
loop.
choice. So
It
now
makes
we
sense.
gotta really finish the job, whatever it takes to achieve a full regime change and have our way there to prevent the consequences that were the fake accusation that could now come true.
Holy shit,
And
bro.
so, you know, it's no surprise, but that's exactly how they do it. And I think this is a great explanation for how this war happened in just the last few months here. It was that the lied not just us into war, they lied Donald Trump into war. Again, Myron, for the love of God, man, don't let me deny the agency of the most powerful person, the most powerful single individual on the face of the planet Earth, maybe ever. Okay? But
Yep.
he's filled his head with shit.
With
And he
shit,
believed
yep,
it 'cause he's
100%.
Stupid. And then he made bad decisions based on those lies that they
Yep.
manipulated him
Yep.
into believing.
100%.
By all means, the president of the United States.
And not only that, I'll put the cherry on top. Is the Epstein files was on top. It was the cherry on top of the cake. So it pushed him even harder to go into war. 100%.
is over 18 and is responsible for his own actions. And if he's gonna
Yep.
bend over and let him in his brain hole, then he is responsible for that. I'm not denying that, but I am
True.
saying to you that it was not the Council on Foreign Relations that caused this war. It was not the Pentagon Joint Staff of Strategic Planners
It's Trump.
who caused this war.
It's
It was
Trump.
man. It was Benjamin Netanyahu and his agents. The guy, Mark
Was
Dubowitz, and his
Israel
buddies at the
and
Foundation for Defense of
fucking Trump.
Democracies, Lindsey Graham, Alan Dershowitz, and very few people who are very close to Benjamin Netanyahu and the Mark Levin, of course, pressured Donald Trump into doing this. And Joe Kent laid it out perfectly. Now, you know, there's the Marco Rubio thing that said, well, they were going to start the war and drag us into it. Mike Johnson also seemed to confirm that. I'm dubious about that.
That's not true at all. They did not want
I guess
that.
he might blackmail Trump, but I don't think that he would blackmail Trump, and I don't think he would need to blackmail Trump. I don't think that's what's going on here. I know some people say that. Tucker says he's enslaved to Netanyahu. And after all, Donald Trump is a sinner, man. Might he have crossed a line where he could have got compromised? Yeah, sure. But I don't think that that's what's going on here. I think what happened was Netanyahu just essentially flattered him into believing that, one, you can do this. And two, everybody else is actually a big wimp for not doing this before.
Yeah.
True.
And that this is going to be your, you know, greatest achievement. That, you know,
Which
these
is not.
people call us the great Satan. They're determined to destroy us. They're determined to do whatever they can to hurt us. And nobody else was man enough to finally solve this problem for the world until you.
Até amanhã.
Não faças barulho.
Tá bem.
Em breve.
Até amanhã. Tchau.
You came along, Big Donald.
You just won in
and I think-
Venezuela.
He
Like, you
did,
can do
yep.
this too, you know?
Yeah.
Yes, in Venezuela,
Yep.
you're absolutely correct.
Makes
to
sense. It makes
identify
sense.
this,
What
and
he's
I'm sure
saying
you
makes
did,
sense,
but
bro.
I did.
It just
and a
makes
lot of
sense.
other people said right after Venezuela was so easy that, oh no, because now Donald Trump is going to be so high on how well that worked that he's going to essentially consider the Delta Force and then therefore, i.e. the whole Pentagon, to be essentially magic and be able to accomplish whatever his whim. I mean, the Delta Force is his private army, and you got to admit, it was quite something that they could get the president and his first lady and
Impressive.
nab them right out of their beds like an Afghan night raid in the head
Damn.
of state in Venezuela
Very
and get away
impressive.
with that. So then, but boy, did Donald Trump get coked up on imperial hubris there, right? Like, he was strutting worse than Dick Cheney. He was so sure of himself after Venezuela. You'd have had to, I don't know what, to stop him from going to Iran after that. You know what I mean? He just got too convinced. And after all, like, and there's a big mistake that people make. It happens all the time. It's all happened through American history, particularly Robert McNamara, the Secretary of Defense during Vietnam, during Kennedy and Johnson, was famous for this, right? Was mistaking all these quantities on a page, all these tactical and operational so-called successes for a strategic success. I mean,
But not
it
really,
sounds kind
but-
of silly now because you know the outcome. It's weird. But think about all that you've heard about from Vietnam, that we're going to break their back. We're going to break them. They, at some point, will cry, stop. Right? But
Yep.
like, no, that's not true. Yes,
Yep.
it is true you can bomb them. No, it's not true that Ho Chi Minh will give in to you. He will not either, and nor will his people. And so you can kill even 3 million of them, and that will not break their back. You will have to admit that you were
True.
stupid and wrong and lost and leave. And that is the ultimate reality. But it's the same thing here. You hear it from Pete Hegseth and his people constantly. We bombed X thousand of this, and we bombed X thousand of that, and Y thousand of this, and nobody could stop
No.
the big green machine, man. We have ultimate
Yeah.
power. But any junior
Yeah, but
high
nothing
school
has
kid
changed.
ought to be able
Nothing
to
has
tell you
changed.
that, well, wait a minute now. Tactics and operations are two things, and strategy is something else. And being able
Yeah.
to achieve your strategic goals, you know, in other words, a political outcome that you desired, is there are other things that matter besides
now.
simple firepower.
Yep. Back in the day, simple firepower was, I would say, the main thing. Now, there's single firepower, but it's connected to everything. Political, economy, it's connected to literally everything. So,
And we saw this also with Iraq.
Iran
War
is
II.
playing their
If
cause.
you said
Right.
in 2003, this war is not going to go well, people would get so outraged
Yeah.
and say, like, how can you doubt the strength of the U.S. Army And it's like, well, I don't think anybody does doubt the strength of the U.S. Army. You know what I mean? Maybe some people even overestimate it. I don't think anyone underestimates it, but you understand that strength don't count for much when you're sending guys out on patrol in aluminum Humvees getting blown up with homemade landmines. Right? We're not talking about meeting the Wehrmacht in the field. We're talking about trying to pacify a civilian-based insurgency of sneak attackers fighting for their own territory on their own territory.
Makes no
Strength,
sense.
nothing, right? They're just blowing smoke. It has nothing to do with it. And we ended up losing that. Well, we ended up helping the supermajority crush their enemies, if that counts as a tactical win. But strategically, again, we fought that whole war for Iran. We fought that whole war for the people that we hated the most. I mean, the U.S. government hated the most. The American people's enemies are the Bin Ladenites, not the Shiites.
Yeah.
But anyway, you know what I mean. So I think that's the same thing that's happening here is Donald Trump got sold this idea of just power and unstoppable strength.
True.
And then believed that he could get what he wanted simply by ordering that things explode. And then he came to find out the hard way that, like, no, that's not true. This is a giant nation of 100 million people with 2 giant mountain ranges, and they've had 30 years to build mid-range missiles. And now what are you going to do? And ultimately, as you know, we're talking about this during the ceasefire, which I really pray holds. I know a lot of people think that they're just biding their time to escalate, but maybe not. But I really hope that the ceasefire holds. But as we're recording this during the ceasefire, America has... I mean, this is like George W. Bush, Iraq War II level strategic catastrophe. Not only did they not, destroy the nuclear program, they did not coerce Iran into forsaking all of their regional allies, like the Iraqi militias, Hezbollah in Lebanon, the Houthis in Yemen. They have not convinced them to do that, or Hamas, even for that matter. They're not renouncing their support for Hamas, although they don't give them that much support. But whatever, that strategic goal has not been achieved. Their missile force has been degraded, but whatever, by a couple of years. They still have, by all accounts, tens of thousands of missiles left. They could go right back to war right now and fight for the rest of the year. For as far as anyone can tell here, they're not in danger. All those claims of Donald Trump that we've decimated their entire missile force and all that.
It's not true.
Total hogwash. It's not true at all.
Not true at all.
Believes it.
Yeah, I think a recent report came out saying like Hegseth and Trump say 90%. Then, some other reports came out from the intel agency saying about 50%. I mean, we've only degraded maybe half of it. They said, I remember on day 2 of the war, they were like, oh yeah, we destroyed 90% of the launchers, yet they're still hitting it. Let me ask you this then, Scott, with this conflict.
Wait, one more thing real quick before, just to wrap up that thought, is on the other side of America failing to achieve their strategic goals here, they have a massive strategic defeat in the loss of all our bases in the Middle East. Just
that's big. Yeah, that's the biggest one, though.
I learned about this back in August of 2005, that the entire Persian Gulf is up for grabs in the event of a war with Iran. They could close the Strait of Hormuz, and end all Saudi oil shipments to the world and drive the price of oil up to $200 a barrel. I wrote that 21 years ago, dude, at antiwar.com about what they can do there, and they have proven that, and they have essentially called America's entire bluff on our military empire in the Middle East. Now, we still got H-bombs, and nobody better ever attack us. And in fact, nobody better ever attack England, or else we'll H-bomb you, I guess. But can we defend even our own bases, much less your country, with conventional power? Apparently not. Apparently, enough mid-range missiles and drones are enough to keep the mighty American superpower at bay. I mean, we can't even pull our Star Destroyers into orbit offshore there. I mean, our aircraft carriers are 500 and 1,000 miles away over horizon after horizon after horizon to prevent from getting hit by Iranian forces. We got to launch our F-18s and refuel them twice to get them to Iran. I mean, our bluff has been called. Justin Logan at Cato said, what good is a military base that you can't wage a war from? The answer is no good. So this whole mythology from Carter Doctrine in 1980 all the way through, that the Persian Gulf is an American lake, it belongs to us, nobody ever better try to dominate it or treat it like an attack on the United States of America. Our military bases in Iraq, in Kuwait, in Qatar, Bahrain, Saudi, UAE, and Oman guarantee the sea lanes and guarantee the Persian Gulf. All that's over now. All that bluff has been called because Donald Trump let Benjamin Netanyahu talk him into this. Now, I'm with Ron Paul. I say we need to pull all our guys out of those bases and close them all down anyway. But we should have listened to Ron Paul and done it deliberately instead of having to do it in a humiliating defeat at the hands of a second-rate power here. But let me tell you, like, those results are going to stick, Myron. The
Yep.
Persian Gulf is called the Persian Gulf for a reason. And that whole bluff of American supremacy there is over now. And the ball is entirely in Iran's court to decide how they want to deal with their neighbors and everybody going forward here. But those shots will not be called in Washington now.
Now, when it comes to the nuclear program, I've always said, that I look at Iran more as like a nuclear threshold hedge state where they kind of maintain it for deterrence purposes. But Trump and Hegseth always, they're never going to get a nuclear bomb. We're not going to let them get a nuclear bomb, blah, blah, blah. What would you say to the MAGA-tards, I call them nowadays, that are saying they're going to get a bomb, they're going to get a bomb. They're weeks away. I think Trump said like a week or two ago that, they were 3 months away from a bomb, even though Midnight Hammer was supposed to have set them back years. What's your response to these people that always talk about Iran getting a nuclear bomb and not being rational and everything else like that?
Well, through their idiocy, they may prove themselves right now in the worst self-fulfilling prophecy kind of way. As I was saying before, like in that Time magazine article, Netanyahu told Trump last June, now that we attacked them, now they're going to break out and get a nuke. And then he told him the same thing after this war, where they weren't making a nuke. Netanyahu goes, now they're going to make a nuke.
Now they're
so
gonna
you
make a
have
nuke.
to follow through. You have to prevent this from happening. The thing that you and I just incentivized them to do more than ever before. So, if you ask Robert Pape from the University of Chicago, he's like, it's purely academic. They 100% are guaranteed to race to an atomic bomb now because their latent nuclear deterrent, their threshold nuclear deterrent was not deterrent enough.
Yep.
Remember, as I described that standoff, don't bomb me and I won't make a nuke. Bomb me and I might. Well, now Trump has called their bluff. Now, at the same time, you got to admit, though, he really set their program way back, too. So if they are going to break out and make a nuke, it's going to be much more difficult than it would have been. And they'll have to get away with it in secret because he's going to be there for another 3 years, apparently. And he's already proven he's willing to bomb them. So if he thinks
3 years.
Yeah, if he thinks that they're starting again, he'll just bomb them again. You know what I mean? They have not attempted to reopen Fordo or Isfahan or Natanz since the war last June. Now, if there's any kernel whatsoever of truth to this accusation that these people are clinging to extrapolate from, it's that they did enrich up to 60%. As Marco Rubio says, the only countries that enrich up to 60% have nuclear weapons. But that doesn't mean anything. You're not making nuclear weapons out of 60%. It is technically possible, but no one's ever done it. And it would have to be a huge, unwieldy, and extremely complicated device. And there's virtually no chance they're going to do that. Whenever anybody makes a nuclear bomb, other than Hiroshima was 80-something%, low 80s, but virtually any other uranium bomb is above 90% uranium-235 in order to be able to get a good bang out of the dang thing.
Holy, it's still nearly 30%. That's a lot still.
Grade. And
You think that was more of a bargaining chip?
That's right.
It was used more as like a bargain. And I've seen you talk about this on, other shows, how enriching to the 60% was more of a strategic thing to trade that away to lift the sanctions rather racing towards a bomb, even though now they're going to probably race towards a bomb because of our aggression.
Although I'm not convinced of that, but they're much more likely to, that's for sure. But yes, the 60% absolutely was a bargaining chip for negotiations. They were saying, oh, you don't like it when we enrich up to 3.6%, and you don't like it when we enrich up to 20%. Let's see how you like it when we enrich up to 60. Are you guys ready to come back to the table or what? That was what it was all about, was a bargaining chip in order to give up. And then the idea was you just give the stuff to the Russians, or you have Russian, engineers come, and then you dilute it back down again. You add more uranium-238 to the mix in the Cascades, and you dilute it back down to usable fuel for your reactor. It's like the opposite of enrichment.
So you can actually dilute the
gas.
Yeah, you can dilute it
the uranium hexafluoride gas. Yeah.
So let me ask you this.
So that was the whole idea. By the way, like just like I quoted Marco Rubio there, you'll hear all the rest of these kooks address it in that same way, right? Is they go, oh, well, why do you think they got 60%? What do you, 60% something. They can't form a declarative statement around what is Iran doing with this 60%? Or why did they enrich to 60%? What did they say about it at the time? What are the weapons implications at any of this stuff? They all just go, oh, 60-something, 60, 67, blah, blah, blah. Like it's some slogan. In fact, they never explain it, because if they explain it, then you have to understand that, yeah, no, clearly this is simply diplomatic language, that they're saying, look, man, I'm trying to make you nervous. There's one easy way to solve this. Just come back to the table and we'll give you our assurances again. And they're saying this now, and I'm not quoting them in the sense of like, oh, we have to believe them now or whatever. But what they're saying is, listen, man, we have the right to enrich uranium. We're an independent nation. You have no right to tell us we can't.
Are they
we have
still
our
part of
own
the NPT?
domestic mines, and we're going to continue to enrich uranium, and you can't stop us. You say you have concerns. Well, let us address your concerns then. And that has been their position. And by the way, they were not making nukes this whole time. They would have at least some by now. They were not. They never made the decision to break out and make that nuke that, you know, Trump now claims, oh, they were 2 weeks away. Give me a break. They were not either. That uranium, whatever they have in these casks, is buried in the ground. It's either in metal or in gaseous form. It's not in any processing facility where it can be enriched to a higher percentage. There is no conversion facility to turn any gas back to metal. And then plus all of the effort that it would take to actually machine a warhead and the explosives required and all of this. There's just nothing like that going on there. They are purely blowing smoke when it comes to the, you know, recent Iranian nuclear threat. They did more or less obliterate the program last June. And if they did break out to make a nuke now, I don't know how long it would take them, but it would be a while.
Okay. That's what I was going to ask
Unless
you
they
as well. Is
absolutely have gotten away with a completely secret facility that nobody knows about. There is a facility at Pickaxe Mountain, which they seem to be looking at trying to turn into a new enrichment facility, but that doesn't count. We know what that is already.
What about
There's
the
no
Isfahan
nuclear
raid?
weapons program there?
What do you think about the Isfahan raid that we tried, where, you know, we ended up making it into a rescue mission? What are your thoughts?
I don't
on
know enough about that, honestly.
Okay,
I
sure.
don't know enough about whose version. I don't believe that that was all about the uranium, because I think it would have taken a lot more guys to try to do that. And for force protection, I mean, I'm no military strategist, but like on the basic level, any real effort to track down the uranium in Iran on, you know, a significant basis to get the, I forgot the number. I don't want to tell you the wrong number of the kilograms of stuff that they have. Most of it, I
It's
believe,
somewhere
still
to
in
2 to
gaseous
400 or
form.
something. It's like
yeah,
2 to 400 kilos, I think, is what they got. What about this,
yeah, so
Scott?
to get all that out of there would require a lot of guys, a lot of earth moving equipment, planes full of it. You know, think of it like, you know, top tier special operations in the middle doing the hunt, and then lower tier special operations, and even maybe
Well, that's what
regular
was
army
happening.
infantry standing around the perimeter. You know, it's just totally imagination prohibitive. You can't do an operation big enough to get the uranium and then also get the hell out of there again. And Isfahan is a major city, an ancient major city where they're bombing all the historical treasures and everything, by the way. But I mean, never even mind their million-man army. Probably just the men of the town with their pitchforks and axes would be enough that the Americans would have to get the hell out of there, man.
Yeah.
It just seems totally impossible. It sounds to
that's
me
what-
like a Hollywood movie where only 2 guys survive at the end.
Yeah. And that's what a lot of people suspect, that, you know, in the process of building a FARP and, you know, getting a bunch of these people here. That's why they had MC-130s and everything. But I'll skip over that. What would your response be to the people that say, oh, well, they chant death to America? And what would your response to that?
Boo-hoo for your tiny homo little feelings, maybe? Like, give me a break, dude. And they chant that. Like, yeah, some of them do sometimes or whatever. And in fact, this is important. It sounds maybe like I'm making excuses, but it really is true that, like, I come to learn about this and people, you know, have written about this. So death to this and that just means this or that in Iranian. It's just an idiom, which just means I don't like this thing. I stub my toe on the curb. I say death to the curb. There's an article about this called Death to Traffic. The guy's in a taxi cab and he's sitting in the back seat and the cab driver says death to traffic. Because it just means this shit, right? It doesn't mean
I didn't know
I'm going
that.
to kill every last one of you, you know?
Okay, so within their language, like, that is okay. When you say death to something, it's our equivalent of saying this.
Right.
I didn't know that. Okay.
And by the way, just think about all the genocidal language Americans use against Iran. Like, big deal, dude. Sticks and stones will break my bones. You know, names will never hurt me. I gotta tell you, I have never sweated one drop in my life over Iran chanting death to America, dude.
Yeah.
You know, and part of that is because it's been America at war with them for 72 years.
Yeah.
Not them at war with us for 43.
Yeah, our intervention has kind of created that animosity. So
47, I guess, is the slogan.
let me ask you this then, Scott. So, like, who's winning this war and why?
I think they already won it.
Okay.
Because America went in there with goals that they completely and totally failed to achieve. And the Iranians are coming out much stronger strategically in terms of their dominance over the Gulf. So this is a W. Bush level strategic for the American empire. Absolute idiot mistake.
So we're in the middle of the ceasefire, like you said before. You know, you want it to go longer, which I hope it does too. What do you think comes next after this? Do you think a ground assault is possible or probable? I know Trump's mobilized even more resources into the region. You know, people are getting orders that they're going to get deployed. You know, as much as Trump says that this is going to be quick and we're going to be done with this, everything else shows otherwise with the mobilization of all these assets. What are your thoughts?
I don't know, man. I mean, the absurdity of the thing should be the end of the argument, right? It makes no sense to do this. You're not going to be able to get in there and get the uranium in any kind of Hollywood movie fashion that you could support, that you would believe in. You can't send in the Marines to reopen the strait with force. I mean, somebody's got to be able to explain to him what can't work here. And in fact, doesn't it already seem like he gave up on, I know what you're saying is true about the recent buildup of forces moving there and all that, but otherwise it seemed like he already backed down from that. And especially, you know, think about all of the announcements. We're moving a bunch of Marines from East Asia to go to the Persian Gulf now. Iran, get ready.
Yeah.
We're coming. In case anyone wants to set up any booby traps near your casks of uranium that you bury,
We'll be
now's
here.
the time. Like, what? It makes no sense. It makes no sense
True.
that they would do it. It's just too damned crazy to believe. And so for now, I don't. For now, I think that Trump is licked and he knows it, and he's got to find his escape hatch here. He's got a ceasefire. He'd be the worst damn fool to undo the escape hatch that he has successfully been able to create for himself here with this ceasefire. So may, you know, whatever, you know, prayers go through and get him to tell Vance to bring this thing home somehow, man. We'll accept some enrichment, whatever it takes to call this thing off.
Yeah, and I think the big hangup is two main things. Is number one, Lebanon not being put into the ceasefire, and then second, from what I understand, the U.S. still, for some odd reason, says no enrichment, as if like as if we have the leverage to even tell them that at this point. And yeah, there's still signatories. I'm looking right now. There's still signatories of the NPT, which means by international law they can enrich. We can't tell them no. And isn't it kind of hypocritical that Israel's not a member of the NPT, trying to tell them that they can't have nuclear weapons? Isn't that nuts?
It is. The whole thing is completely crazy. I mean, they stole weapons-grade uranium from the United States in order to make their nukes in the first place.
Yep.
The whole thing is crazy. And their doctrine is just absolutely contrary to American national interests. Again, they got us on the side of the bin Ladenites against Hezbollah. But it wasn't them that knocked our towers down.
Yeah.
It's just completely crazy. That's why I'm always talking this Sunni Shiite stuff. I want people to understand who are the shirts and the skins in the fight so that you can see. They try to say there's no daylight, there's no discrepancy between Israel's interests and ours, but they couldn't be more diametrically opposed, in fact. What we, the American people, want and need is an end of bin Ladenite terrorism at all costs, or at least not do anything ever or tolerate any other country, especially any ally of ours, doing anything to support bin Ladenite type terrorists. And then otherwise, all we want is peace and stability so that everybody can trade and get along. You know, people always invoke the Monroe Doctrine, but read James Monroe's speech from 200 years ago. What it says is, you stay out of our hemisphere and we promise to stay out of yours. As he puts it, he says, we will accept the government of all nations of the old world as de facto legitimate. Whether they are or not is somebody else's problem, but it ain't ours.
Let me ask you this, Scott. Let's say, you know, you got a job tomorrow as Trump's advisor. What would you tell him to get us out of this thing while still somehow saving face? Because I think Trump is staying in this conflict longer because he's trying to find some political off-ramp that doesn't make him look weak. And, you know, it doesn't seem as though the Iranians are going to be as open to negotiate as they were before.
That's right. Look, I would tell him, just come home, man. Forget the deal.
Pull out completely.
America's sticking points, we got 15 demands. They've got 10. I don't think J.D. Vance is man enough to see it through, man. I don't think it's really even possible, quite frankly, for Trump to climb down as far as the Iranians are demanding he climb down, or vice versa. So I think the best thing to do, and this is something about Trump that is horrible, but it's also maybe his greatest strength, is that he can go from demanding unconditional surrender one day to unconditionally surrendering the next. And nobody cares, and he doesn't care. You know what I mean? Like he said, when he announced the ceasefire, he goes, we're going to take Iran's 10-point plan as a basis to start negotiating.
Yeah, that was
like,
nuts.
okay, dude, it's fine with me, man. Anybody says taco, like he's chickening out around you, you smack him in the mouth. Y'all shut up, man. He needs to be encouraged to do this. It was wrong for him to start, and it is right for him to stop. And, you know, anything he does to call it short now needs to absolutely be encouraged, especially, you know, when Democrat types try to call him weak for giving in too early or some kind of thing like that. They need to be shouted down into oblivion, which, by the way, that did happen. The horrific and horrible Senator Chris Murphy from Connecticut, he started making fun of Trump for backing down and being wimpy and stuff. And a bunch of leftists and liberals and progressives ruthlessly attacked him for it. And then he backed down and said, oh no, you misunderstood me. That's not even what I meant, and whatever, which it absolutely is too. And they just told him, like, look, we are not going to tolerate that from you, son of a, you understand? And he said, okay, you guys are right, is what really happened there. So it's important,
And I got one
to
last
keep
question.
that kind of pressure up.
My last question is, obviously right now we're in the middle of a blockade, right? Trying to create some financial or economic strife on Iran. What are your thoughts on the blockade? Bad idea, good idea?
Stupid.
What happens next?
That's stupid, I
Well,
think.
yeah, no, it's terrible and stupid, and they're just going to
Yeah,
end
it's
up
so
giving
stupid.
up and quitting, thank goodness, at some point. I mean, they're not even truly enforcing it now. They're trying to, and they're claiming that they're enforcing it, but they're ships that are getting through. And I just think, you know, and Trump
That's- yeah, that's so
is
stupid.
going back over there to deal with them. So I can, I guess, try to be hopeful about that.
Do you
But
think
look,
it's going to
ultimately,
stick?
it's in everyone's interest to reopen the thing. The question is just going to be how much money does Iran make off of it from now on, you know?
Yeah.
Joe, that is a fucking dumb fucking idea. To try to put the blockade on the blockade, even though ships still go through, so you're not putting a blockade, so it makes no sense.
He says Iran promised to open
It's just funny to me seeing that they're making so many decisions that at the end they don't even go through it and they end up giving up. So what's the point? Like what you're trying to do?
the Strait of Hormuz
Just create all this fucking chaos for Israel and shit like that, and then at the end it doesn't even work. And like what the fuck? So how about we stop this? We tell Israel to fuck off, right? Because we all know the other ones are wrong here. And peace to everyone. Everyone can trade. Everyone can go back to the normal economy. Everyone can live their lives and the way they want, and vice versa. For everyone. Like, why is it so hard to get there? Like, it's so dumb.
and they knowingly failed to do so. This caused anxiety,
So again, don't forget to subscribe to Myron Gaines. That's what we reacted to so far. Now we're gonna react to Riyadh, which is Myron Gaines' brother, which he has pretty good, interesting things, takes and things to say, of course. So don't forget to subscribe as well to his channel.
dislocation and pain to many people in countries throughout the world. They say they put mines in the water even though all of their navy and most of their mine droppers have been completely blown up. They may have done so, but what ship owner would want to take the chance? There is great dishonor and permanent harm to the reputation of Iran and what's left of their leaders, but we are beyond all of that. As they promised, they better begin the process of getting this international waterway open and fast. Every law in the book is being violated by them. I have been fully debriefed.
How can you have the audacity to say that every law book has been violated by them? What were you doing right now? With Israel? For years you've been violating the book. And you have the audacity to say that Iran is violating all the books? For like 40 to 70 years, you've been violating the books with Israel non-stop. And you think you have the fucking audacity to stop them? Even though they are the ones finding themselves? You're the ones actually fucking destroying the books? And violating the books. And like, bro, what the fuck?
By President Vance, Special Envoy Steve Witkoff, and Jared Kushner on the meeting that took place in Islamabad through the kind and very competent leadership of Field Marshal Asim Munir and Prime Minister Shehbaz Sharif of Pakistan. They are very extraordinary men and continuously thank me for saving 30 to 50 million lives.
30
What would have
million.
been a horrendous war with India. I always
so
appreciate
good.
hearing that. The amount of humanity spoken is incomprehensible. I don't even know why. Had nothing to do with nothing. But anyways, okay, the meeting with Iran began early in the morning and lasted throughout the night, close to 20 hours. I could go into great detail and talk about much that has been gotten out, but there is only one thing that matters. Iran is unwilling to give up its nuclear ambitions. Again, we knew that would probably be the case. Why would they give it up? In many ways, the points that were agreed to are better than us continuing our military operations to conclusion, but all of those points don't matter compared to allowing nuclear power to be in the hands of such volatile, difficult, and unpredictable people. So Trump is kind of insinuating at the fact that maybe there was some sort of deal, and this is what Vance said at the end of the video. There was some deal that was made, and we're leaving it on the table for Iran. It's like kind of another step or maybe a last resort aside from military action to continue. But Trump had said to the press prior that military options are not off the table. Of course they're not. We still have so many troops in the region. But anyways, he says, my 3 representatives as of this time went by, became, not surprisingly, very friendly and respectful of Iran's representatives, Mohammad Ghalibaf and Abbas Araghchi and Ali Bagheri. But that doesn't mean that they were very unyielding as to the most important issue. And as I have always said right from the beginning and many years ago, Iran will never have a nuclear weapon. So there you have it. The meeting went well. Most points were agreed to, but the only point that really mattered, nuclear, was not effective immediately. And this is where you should listen. The United States Navy, the finest in the world, will begin the process of blockading any and all ships trying to enter or leave the Strait of Hormuz. At some point,
they tried to blockade the blockade, bro. But we all know that didn't happen because a Chinese ship literally flew past them. In front of them was China. So it's very, very, very funny after this Truth Social post, isn't it, Trump? Yeah, we're gonna blockade the Strait of Hormuz so no ships, literally no ships can go through. And then literally the moment after, a day, 2, Chinese ship comes out from Strait of Hormuz, goes to China. That's pretty fucking funny, Trump. You're gonna blockade, huh? Blockade my ass. Yeah, 100% you're gonna fucking blockade.
we will reach and
Bruh.
quote, all being allowed to go in,
Blockade,
all
bro.
being allowed to go out, end quote, basis. But Iran has not allowed that to happen by merely saying, quote, there may be a mine out there somewhere, end quote, that nobody knows about but them. Again, this is world extortion.
That's so funny.
There's like a flip-flop here. Trump seems to really be caring about the fact that Iran is damaging the global oil market. But just a few weeks ago, he was saying, NATO, who gives a shit, figure it out on your own. It doesn't bother us. So you can see the diplomacy is kind of shifting because the United States is in a corner and we've exhausted all of our options that temporarily relieve the global oil market. We did the whole CIA op. It failed. Maybe that was for boots on ground. We tried bombing the hell out of them. We were going to exercise the ability of hitting their power plants. Maybe that's next, but we didn't do it for whatever reason. So
Release
now
400
Trump-
million barrels of oil.
Yeah.
Release, strategic reserves, 400 million barrels of oil.
Sanctions on
Trump
Iran,
trying to-
sanctions on Russia.
Yeah, lifting sanctions on Russia and Iran. Like, guys, we've done so much to kind of massage the energy crisis, and the energy crisis is still going strong. Because keep in mind, guys, we're sitting at 105 right now, and this is with.
Oh yeah. Let me just to let you guys know. I want you guys to keep with information. I mean, it says here it's on $90. It went down to 89, but it's going back up again. It's going back up again. So we were at 92, I would say. This is 91.82, but around 292. But it's going back up again. It went down to 90 or 89, but it's going back up again to 90 again. It's going back up. Like, let me check. Just in general, I want to see in general. Yeah, it's going back up to 91. Like, it's going back up. It's going back up, bro. Show you 2 graphics: the Google one and site one, bro. Like,
Over the last few weeks.
no. Well, no, that's another video. But you see this, right? Like, we're playing this fucking game. Like, they think they have all the leverage, but at the end they don't.
With them releasing 400 million barrels, with them releasing sanctions, and the price is still high, right?
Yeah.
So, like, even with all that damage control, the barrel still shot up to 140 and then went back down when Trump did the ceasefire. So they're doing everything in their power to stabilize the markets. I think this ceasefire was strategically to just simply let the markets recover and bring the price down. Because if you guys
It's
notice,
going
me and
back
my
up
brother
again.
have been calling this for you guys. What do we tell you? Anytime we hit around 120, guess what happens? They want to go ahead and start, the Trump starts doing erratic shit on through social, blah, blah, blah.
Fuck off. We don't care. Fuck off.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. So now it's now or nothing in regards to the Strait of Hormuz. He's got to do something to get it open. So he says, this is world extortion and leaders of our countries, especially the United States of America, will never be extorted. I have also instructed our Navy to seek and interdict every vessel in international waters that has paid a toll to Iran. No one who pays an illegal toll will have safe passage on the high seas. We will also begin destroying the mines the Iranians laid in the straits. Any Iranian who fires at us or at peaceful vessels will be blown to hell. Iran knows better than anyone how to end the situation which has already devastated their country. Okay, so this is from the first post that I was reading earlier while you were gone, but I'll continue. Their Navy is gone, their Air Force is gone, their anti-aircraft and radars are useless. All right, that's arguably what shot down an F-15. Khamenei and most of their leaders are dead, all because of their nuclear ambition. The blockade will begin shortly, like I said, Monday, so actually very soon now. However, I don't know what time exactly. Other countries will be involved with this blockade. Iran will be allowed to profit off this illegal act of extortion. Will not be allowed, sorry. They want money, and more importantly, they want nuclear additionally, and at an appropriate moment, we are fully locked and loaded.
Oh, they emphasize the nuclear so fucking much to the point where it's like, why are we emphasizing so much? It's like they're pushing the idea of nuclear very, very hard into people's minds, and like people not buying it. They really are trying. Like in this one fucking Truth Social post, he said nuclear for like 20 times.
Military will
like, bro,
finish up the
at a certain point you're gonna be like, bro, why are you saying nuclear so many times? Are you lying at this point?
I mean, he's planning on blocking the strait. Now, I believe Iran is like 7-ish hours ahead of us right now. We're Eastern time, so it's 10 a.m. for both of us and most of you watching. But right now in Iran, it's kind of the middle of the night, approaching the morning. And so I'm curious as to when the United States is going to start this operation in the Strait of Hormuz to block it in order to, I guess, remove a lot of these mines and then open it back up. But Trump is threatening that if Iran tries to interdict or get involved in this in any sort of way, try to intercept or stop these ships from blocking what's already blocked, by the way. This is already blockaded, so I'm not sure what he means by that. But, you know, maintaining a presence or entering a presence into the strait. Huh? A block
like if, bro, it's like nigga. Wait, hold on one sec. So it's like what kind of genius thought process? Like, you know what, bro? Imagine niggas are in the Oval Office, right? He's there with Rubio and Hegseth and all, right? And he's like, "How are we gonna figure this out? The talks aren't gonna work. What are we gonna do?" And he's like, "Wait, I got it. We're gonna block the blockade." And it's like, what the
it's so retarded. We're gonna block something that's blocked. Makes a lot of sense, bro. It makes a lot of sense. Like, it's retarded. It's fucking retarded. And at the end, by the way, they did what Trump said they're gonna do. They end up blocking. Yes, there is ships literally in waters to block the blockade. And at the end, there's boats passing through. So, bro, you cannot come here and say you're gonna block the blockade, and at the end you don't even block it. So you're just being stupid.
Like, could you imagine Nick sitting in the house?
And you got Hegseth and Vance in the corner, like, bro. Like, probably like, yo, we're cooked.
Yo, you know what? These niggas must have been, because if you look at Marco Rubio, bro was drunk at the UFC event.
Yeah, he was.
Right? His eyes were kind of glazed over. It was probably, President, I got the idea. We're gonna block the blockade.
He probably told him.
That's a good idea.
He probably told him drunk too. Yeah, he probably told him drunk too. Yo, you're totally right. He's like, I have an idea. We're gonna block. Now we're gonna block Strait of Hormuz. It's blocked. We're gonna double block it. Trump said, "You know what, Marco? I think that's a great idea. This is what, and you're the best. You're the best Secretary of State, and that's why." Maybe you're gonna be president, because are you not the greatest? Man, it's not gonna be Vance, it's gonna be you. They probably charge each other up watching niggas knock themselves out next to Dana White.
Hex says there too, drinking a fucking cold one, right? Pete Keg's breath. Mr. President, I think that's great. I think that's a great idea. We're gonna be lethal. We're gonna destroy them. We're gonna block, and we're gonna be lethal at blocking. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It will learn. The mullahs will learn after this, as he's fucking, drinking his fucking Budweisers. Like, yo, these niggas must have been lit. Yeah, bro. Niggas on the UFC fight. That's a fucking. We're hype. You know what? We're gonna block the blockade.
That makes no sense, bro. Bro, Derek, do you hear this? Hello, Dark. I think he's gone, bro. He went to sleep, bro. He knocked out, probably. But yeah, but it makes no sense. How? What? Why are you blocking something that's already blocked? It makes no sense, bro. It's just stupid. It's fucking retarded. It's like a dumb fucking idea. It's like a child decide to, you know what? I'm gonna do this, and at the end it ends up being stupid. Like, it's fucking funny as shit. Like, I've never seen something like that before. It's like children taking care. Oh, what the fuck was that? Why is that? For fuck's sake, bro. He always does this shit. It's like, fam. It's like children taking care of a company, like of a country. It's like, fam. Guys, like, come on, bro. You have intelligent people that know what they're doing, and you all are acting like children. It's time to act like actual fucking adults for once. Like, come on, bro. It's fucking stupid. I'm gonna put my chat right here. See your messages is on screen. Yeah, I'm changing the screen again so we can see Myron again. And then I'm gonna keep it like this for the end of the stream, until the end of the stream. So if Myron's up appearing again, we can see him. Of course. But that's a stupid fucking idea. We're gonna block something that's blocked.
His idea first, though. It had to be Rubio, because that's a drunk idea. That's a you know what? Fuck it. We're gonna block the block straight. That's a great idea. Get Dumb and Dumber over there, ringside, watch us knock each other out. No, but I mean, look, this is what I'm really concerned about. This is what this is funny. This is what I'm really concerned about. If the United States enters the strait, which we will in the next few hours, is Iran just going to sit there and let that happen? I mean, if we take control of the strait, well, then what other weapon do they have aside from the IRGC members on the ground? So, and of course their missiles program, but you know, that's really only going to be weaponized in a defensive fashion. If we hit their energy infrastructure, then they'll hit the Gulf countries. Because, you know, the strikes that they're hitting on Dubai and, you know, Abu Dhabi and everywhere else in the UAE, sure, that matters, but it's not as detrimental as if they were to hit a water desalination plant, right? Or an oil refinery, as they've hit in Saudi Arabia and Kuwait, or even the pipelines that send the smaller amount of oil that the Gulf countries export anywhere else on the land instead of the Strait of Hormuz. So that's what I'm really concerned about, is Iran's response, and I think they will respond. I don't think they're going to let the United States do it. Then again, Trump has been just saying a bunch of things and doing others. So who knows if we'll even go into the strait. Maybe this is just to, again, relieve the market. Hey, we're going to do something in the strait. Don't worry. We're going to fix this. We have this under control. We'll be there Monday to remove mines and then block so we can unblock. Maybe that's his method. Maybe this is just bluffing. I don't know. But I mean, do you see any intricate strategy here? Do you see the greater idea?
No.
Because
and the thing that's crazy is that I think this might just be posturing because as you guys know, they had to move the Gerald Ford out of there, right? Because of a laundry fire or a dryer fire.
More like a missile strike.
Yeah, I got some pretty credible information that from some people that it wasn't a fire. It was or a dryer fire, as they claim. They were hit more than likely with a drone. But they were hit by Iran is the point you guys need to know. They were absolutely hit by Iran, and that's what caused the fire, and that's why they left. Obviously, you know, we're not going to tell the world that. We're just going to say, oh, there was a fire and we had to leave. But, you know, the fact that they were fighting a fire from a dryer for like almost a day, it was like some wild number, like 28 hours or shit like that.
Yeah.
Like that's not indicative of a fire on a aircraft carrier. That didn't make sense. So more than likely, I think probably not a missile either, but I think it probably was like a drone or some other type of, you know, damage from Iran externally.
A drone
so
to go down.
Them pushing an aircraft carrier into that area will be a suicide mission. I mean, guys, don't forget, they had to move the aircraft carriers back.
Yeah.
Just you, building your app.
No, I don't want to build an app. 44. No, thank you.
When they first got there.
When they first got there, they got close, and then once they actually launched the attack, within the first like 72 hours, whatever, they had to move those aircraft carriers back.
Yeah.
So they would not do that. Yeah, they would not do that if there wasn't like some actual real threat of Iran's capabilities of hitting the aircraft carriers. So, yeah, this again, I think is just more military posturing of like, because if they do, it's just, you know, they could sink an aircraft carrier. Let's be explicitly clear about this. The Iranians can absolutely sink an aircraft carrier, bro. No problem.
True.
Yeah.
Easy.
Right?
Yeah,
No,
it's
they
very,
can
very
do it.
Very possible. And the issue is, right? And
Thousands will die if they do that. Thousands will die. Like, well, how many people are on the aircraft? Like somewhere between 3,000 to 6,000 people are on the aircraft carrier.
That's all.
He has like 5,000
Yeah,
military personnel.
it's some wild numbers. So between 3,000 to 5,000 in there, man. Like that'd be, yeah.
And so that's the thing too is, but I'll go back here before we move on. The two, I guess, theories I have, how could you theorize with such a plan? But the two theories that I have here is either Trump is just maybe posturing or he's bluffing in order to relieve the oil market, or maybe he's serious and maybe we will do this and maybe this is our attempt to reopen the strait. But that's just not going to happen without serious warfare, without serious fighting. And so could it be an entry for a ground invasion? Sure. But then again, there's an issue with that as well, because obviously the coastline of Iran is heavily fortified with launchers that are mobile. And so a lot of these aircraft carriers, as well as any other small boats that deploy from these aircraft carriers, or just Marines in general that try to get onto the ground, are going to have a hard time. Again, this is just all speculation. I don't know what the plan is, but I don't know if this is serious. Trump has been launching a bunch of empty threats for the last, 6 weeks since this conflict has started. I don't know why I would believe him here, because if all of the things he said sounded crazy, this is paired along with it. This also sounds crazy. This does not sound like something that makes sense, but the troops are there and they've been there for a while and they're getting ready to mobilize. Maybe this is the moment. The talks failed. We didn't reach an agreement. JD Vance said we left something on the table. We're waiting for a call back. They're probably not going to come to the table on whatever that is that he vaguely hinted at the end of his brief. So, to me, it seems like, all roads lead to Rome effectively. And maybe this is where the war enters its second stage. And that's why China seems to be arming up Iran. And I read that out of CNN. I don't know if you saw that, but a couple different outlets reported on it. And then somebody asked Trump about it, and he said, well, if China does that, it's going to be, quote, a big mistake.
Me and my brother have told you guys this a million times. We are winning this war militarily, but we are losing it strategically, diplomatically, and economically. And if you can't understand that winning a war militarily doesn't necessarily mean you're winning the war, if you can't understand that concept, then you, my friend, are a fucking smooth-brained and don't understand how asymmetric warfare works. Okay, like our barrier to victory is a lot higher than Iran's barrier to victory. Our barrier to victory is we need to effectuate regime change, right? We're trying to scale it back and say no, it's not regime change, even though that's what it is. Their barrier to victory is simply just not getting out of power. Yeah. And what's easier for them to achieve? It's easier for them to stay in power than it is for us to come in and take them out of power. Clearly. Because that would require a boots on ground operation that the U.S. public is simply not looking to support politically. So
if you guys disagree with us, you disagree with the entire intelligence community. Everybody in the IC said this war is a horrible idea. Former CIA officials or former CIA officers like John Kiriakou, or even others like Joe Kent, regardless of how you feel about them. And by the way, Tulsi Gabbard had also expressed back in 2019.
Well, I'm going to give them proof right now for us. I'm going to give them proof right now. What you're saying. Keep going. I got you.
Tulsi Gabbard in 2019 said this was a terrible mistake and Trump is making a huge blunder by trying to start a war with Iran. So, I mean, across the board, anybody who actually has skin in the game inside of the U.S. government, inside of the CIA or anything else like that will tell you this war is a terrible idea, because if you have any sort of intel on Iran, it's not just any other country like Iraq might have been or anything like that. The terrain is actually harsh, and all of the things that we desperately want and Israel wants to seize or destroy is hundreds of feet underground in several different locations that's fortified by their missiles as well that protect the country. But go ahead.
Someone said Martin's blocking people for disagreeing. No, I'm getting rid of idiots that are spamming the chat with lies. Now, what you guys just heard from my brother? How about you guys hear from the intel community themselves?
Hey, Gavin.
Trump should have had ample warning that toppling the Iranian government was not going to happen. On March 7th, the Washington Post revealed that a classified report by the National Intelligence Council found that even a large-scale assault on Iran launched by...
Bro, their own military said to him that it's not going to work, and he still decided to do it. Like, I'm sorry, but he's retarded. Trump is retarded.
The United States would be unlikely to oust the Islamic Republic's entrenched military and clerical establishment. The report was completed about a week before the United States and Israel initiated.
Oh, did you guys hear that? The report was completed
Before.
when?
Before a week
report
before.
was completed about a week before the United States and Israel initiated the war. The intelligence concluded that Iran's clerical and military establishment would respond to the
Like,
killing
bro.
of Supreme Leader Ayatollah Ali Khamenei by following protocols designed to preserve continuity of power. Further,
Oh, I wonder who told y'all niggas this months ago. Oh,
the prospect of Iran's fragmented opposition taking control of the country was described as, quote, unlikely.
oh, interesting. This is intel professionals that have more info than me and my brother, that have top secret SCIs, that have access to all the military intelligence.
The source of the report, the National
Bro.
Intelligence Council, is composed of veteran analysts who produce classified assessments meant to represent the collective wisdom of Washington's 18 intelligence agencies.
Oh, so me and my brother came to the same conclusion as 18 different intelligence agencies that have significantly higher clearances than us, have clearances, they know what's going on, and they all came to the same conclusion that killing Ali Khamenei more than
Was
likely
stupid.
won't lead to a regime change.
Yep.
One would think that if Congress had any
And to make it better, they gave him this report 1 week
1
before
week
the
before the
attacks.
war.
and
1
he
week
still
before the
attacked
war.
anyway. And now look at the fucking political quagmire we're in now. You know, it's like people over here just thinking like, why did you guys just move to Iran then? You guys are RUGC sympathists. Bro, the intelligence community of America, who has a vested interest in protecting America, as we do too, assess the same exact thing that we gave you, which is this war is stupid. It's not going to lead to regime change. This is going to lead us to a regional war, and it's going to create an economic energy crisis. And guess what happened? Everything came to fruition. that we
Everything came to
predicted.
fruition.
What would you tell a man who can scroll for hours but can't work for 10 minutes and hates himself for it every night?
I'd tell him his brain.
No, thank you. So,
Chat, you guys been begging.
fuck off.
So what's this with the block?
But yeah, bro, like this, bro, if their own officials literally send a fucking proof that it's not worth it going to war a week before the war, that things will escalate and be worse, and they decide to still do it anyway, bro. Like, come on, bro, you cannot make this up.
Blockade. I know you've been on top of it. I'll just let you monologue what's going on with the blockade. What the hell's going on?
I'm gonna come back in a second. We're gonna get something to eat. There you go. But it's funny, the fact that they warned Trump a week before the war. Do not do it because it's not gonna work and it's gonna make things 10 or 100 times worse. And he still decided to go through the plan. So, no, bro, cannot make this shit up. You just can't.
Because I haven't had you on for a minute. So, yeah, what the hell's going on? And fill us in, and I'll let you. Give me 1 sec.
Yeah. So, real quick,
I'll give you my
obviously, if you haven't been paying attention, I'd say
Fucking
since
shit, bro.
Monday we've had some micro developments, really nothing huge. The biggest thing is, of course, if you missed it, last week Donald Trump had tweeted on Truth Social, I believe around Thursday or Friday, that we are going to implement a new strategy to block the Strait of Hormuz. I'm not sure really what the idea was initially when we were going over it on stream. We weren't really sure as to what he had in store, but this was to go into effect on Monday at 10 a.m. So now we're seeing this happen. However, the United States has not actually blocked the Strait of Hormuz entirely, and we've sent out the Navy in our full force to actually effectuate this plan. We have now begun to block Iranian ports across the entire coast of Iran, spanning from the Gulf of Oman into the Persian Gulf, and then, of course, what entails the Strait of Hormuz. And we've blocked these ports from exporting ships and then importing ships. So anybody coming in and then any ships trying to leave. And the strategy seems to be that we're trying to choke Iranian economy or their economy as a whole, prevent them from receiving goods, make them feel some pressure, and then hopefully that brings them closer to the talking table or diplomatic agreement to give up their nuclear program, give up the missiles, something of that sort. However,
it's
what we're seeing on the other side, and remember, Donald Trump had tweeted last week, or really made a Truth Social post, that we are going to block the strait, we're going to block the blockade, and no one really knew what the plan was, but now we're able to see the United States is just really making Iran's government feel economic pressure by blocking their ability to receive anything that's coming in or anything that's leaving for them to make money. But Iran is still taxing or tolling ships that are crossing through the Strait of Hormuz. I was just speaking to Suleiman on X Space, and it's still a very low amount of ships that are passing through. Yesterday was somewhere around 20, today somewhere around 9, and so the numbers are still not back up to normal. However, they have increased from what was entirely a complete blockade where no ships were passing through. So currently what we're seeing is the United States is blocking Iranian ports from oil export, goods export, everything else in between, and at the same time, Iran is making money from these ships that are coming through the Strait of Hormuz. Even though it's in a small number, they're able to tax these countries and charge them. And of course, this back ends on the United States in regards to the fact that we started this conflict and now countries are paying for the price by having to receive their oil, by the way, that they desperately need. A lot of these countries in Asia and Europe depend solely on the UAE countries, or sorry, the Gulf countries, UAE being one of the big ones, and then Qatar and Kuwait for oil, but they cannot export that through the Strait of Hormuz because of the blockade. Now some ships have gotten through, but Iran is making a ton of money. So they've kind of filled in the gap that was felt by us closing their ports for goods and economic benefit by making money on the Strait of Hormuz. So we haven't really addressed the problem directly on its face yet. However, we're approaching a ceasefire end. Really, the agreement ends on the 22nd. So we have another 6 days before this whole ceasefire thing that was brokered between JD Vance and the entire Iranian delegation, with the Middle Eastern envoy being included as well. That's all done on Wednesday next week. And so what we're going to see after is up in the air. Of course, it's speculative. We may see a new ceasefire that extends longer. Hopefully that's the case as Trump and this administration tries to buy time to strategize as to what they want to do next. Or we may see a second stage of the war, maybe a second air assault, potentially even boots on ground. We just added 10,000 more new troops to the region in the process of gearing up our Navy to block these Iranian ports. But in regards to the Strait of Hormuz, we still don't have control. And as you can see, Donald Trump has been telling the press that we've reached an agreement with Iran. They're actually conceding on their nuclear program. We're getting somewhere in the negotiations and the peace talks. But again, the IRGC has came out and said, we haven't really come to the table about anything, and we have not changed any of our demands. Our demands from the original Islamabad talks as well as prior have always remained the same. They'll continue to remain the same. We will maintain control of the Strait of Hormuz, and we will not give up anything until the United States either gives us reparations or pulls out of the Strait of Hormuz and leaves us alone militarily. So the three sticking points really seem to be Iran's nuclear program. Okay, if you don't remember, JD Vance had made a maximalist demand for some 20-year deal in regards to their nuclear program. Of course, they said no, and so that was kind of the camel that broke the straw that broke the camel's back in regards to the negotiations in Pakistan. And the second point of contention that's kind of halting a true long-term peace deal is, of course, the Strait of Hormuz. The United States now wants control of the Strait of Hormuz, or at least wants to remove Iranian control or Iranian economic benefit from the strait. And then the third point of contention, besides the missiles program, which is also huge, is Iran demanding some sort of economic sanction relief or reparations for the war that has spanned 50 days and destroyed a lot of their critical infrastructure, as well as the fact that they've suffered in every other aspect from this war. And so some sort of reparation or some sort of apology in regards to money is something that they've been flirting with in these peace talks as well. So a lot of issues that the United States and Iran don't seem to have any eye-level relation on. And that's what kind of concerns me for the second round of peace talks that Donald Trump and Pakistan have been hinting are around the corner. It's just probably going to be the same thing again, unless one side kind of really pulls their hand off the table and allows the other side to gain a little bit of ground, right? There has to be some sort of concession. It's really not going to come from the United States, though, not with this administration. So me and Suleiman briefly spoke about that. He gave me some updates, but nothing really major. You know, we started this blockade, but Chinese ships have still passed through, even though we said we would stop them. Iranian vessels have still passed through, even though we said we're going to close off the oil ports and the ports in Iran that receive all of the goods from these ships. A few have still allegedly made it through. And so even our plan to completely seize and cut off the ports, however, on its face, it sounds brilliant, has
But it
not
doesn't.
worked in its entirety as well.
Yeah,
We've turned
you know.
around away like maybe 12 or 13 ships, I think. That's what I'm reading. But overall, there's still some that are seeping through, and Iran is making a ton of money on the Strait. So we're just collecting our marbles, and we'll see what happens on the 22nd. That's the real day to pay attention, because that's when this is all over.
No, you're 100% right, man. And I appreciate you kind of bringing everybody up to speed. Guys, the only reason why Trump felt safe enough to do this blockade right now is because we're in the middle of a ceasefire. Best believe that if we weren't in the middle of a ceasefire, they'd be blowing up these destroyers and or attacking our allies in the region. So that's the only reason why Trump feels safe to do this stupid-ass blockade. But he's not going to be able to maintain it forever. And they've already kind of had to bend the knee a few times. So a blockade, for those of you that don't know, guys, is considered an act of war. It's essentially an act of war because you're cutting off a country's ability to earn revenue, which obviously cuts off its livelihood. So it's economic warfare. So I'm not surprised that, you know, Trump is doing it now and why he selected this 2 weeks to do this straight, because he knows that he's safe. But once that ceasefire is done, he won't be able to do that. That's another reason too why I think he's trying to extend this ceasefire. I think that's another reason why he's trying to get this this ceasefire extended, so that number one, he could get his ground troops, he could get troops into the region. Number two, buy some more time and try to cut off Iran for making as much money as possible, even though he's not completely cutting it off, but he is limiting it to a degree. And then number three, he's able to operate with some level of protection since they're in the middle of a ceasefire right now. Right, he's getting right up to the edge with doing this blockade and letting some ships through. Right, and let them make some money versus like completely cutting off their ability to make money, and where it, you know, would warrant a direct attack back on them or us. And it's just like reckless that he's doing it, dude. It's completely foolish.
Yeah, you're completely right. He's kind of capitalizing on the fact that there's guaranteed ceasefire, but I mean, it's really on its face not stable, right? It takes one sort of threat, one sort of ship invasion, which has not happened yet, for this all to come crumbling down. And really, Iran has the ability, I'm not saying it would be right, I actually would disagree if they did this, but they have the ability to say, hey, the United States and Israel started this war as one joint entity, and Israel has violated the ceasefire like 10 times since its inception. We're going to attack your ships. And so it's been good to see that they haven't done that. At least we're able to get away with some sort of strategy. But again, this is only going to last until Wednesday, and it's posing no real harm.
So literally, tomorrow is the last day of the ceasefire.
To the Iranian government, because they're already sanctioned.
It's
a couple ports that really do. They've got everything at home. They've got their missiles. They've got their drones. They build that all at home. And those are the things that are keeping them alive in the war right now, as well as the same things that are allowing them to control the Strait. Dinesh D'Souza said something very foolish, and it showed me he doesn't really understand the conflict or the topic as a whole. He said, well, oh, we destroyed Iran's navy, and so they don't have any ships to threaten the Strait of Hormuz. Dinesh, the threat on the Strait of Hormuz comes from the drone and missiles program. It has nothing to do with the navy. It never did. Iran never leveraged their naval ships to threaten the oil vessels. They leveraged the fact that these very cheap drones that they make underground in mass bulk, the stockpile that they have, can at any time go into the Strait of Hormuz and threaten these oil vessels, which is why these ships will not be insured.
They try to get around it, like when you know how they have those little attack boats that they can use to board. But that's irrelevant, bro. That's like just added, like, you know, theater shit. The real danger is the drones, dude. They blew up a Thai ship, and then it's learned right then and there, we're not going through. They blew up a Thai ship like early on in the conflict, if you remember.
Yes, and that's the whole. It's the whole thing that scares them, is the fact that even outside of their little naval presence, whatever you want to call it, the real issue is that these drones can fly right over. And by the way, it was a drone that hit our amphibious assault vessel, and then we had to lie and say it was a launcher fire. So these drones are capable. You know, they're not just any other drone. They're the Shahed drones, and they're very capable of hitting complicated military infrastructure that has a defense system in place to repel attacks. So these oil vessels are sitting.
And it's so funny, they have all this advanced military, and they got fucked by a drone. That's funny as fuck.
Ducks if they cross the strait, while Iran is hurling these threats over at them. And
I'm sorry, it just is. It just is.
Since the United States is so much stronger than them, you know, that's the whole idea of this attritional war, a war of, you know, asymmetry, and that's what we're seeing real time. So I don't know what my prediction is for next week once the ceasefire is allegedly over. You know, hopefully Trump is able to extend it. I think it's in his best interest to really extend it. I don't know if the United States is really interested in pursuing this war again for another 40 or 50 days.
Didn't he just do a Truth Social post earlier today? Like they're doing another 10 extension.
Je vais vous raconter une histoire sur notre humanité.
Yeah, allegedly, but I don't know if Iran has actually agreed to that. That's the problem. Is for what I'm seeing facing Pakistan and Iran.
I know Lebanon was the main sticking point. Like they said, we're not going in unless. Let me see here.
Yeah, by the way, Lebanon is still in the war. They're still getting hit. So I don't think tomorrow Iran's going to negotiate with America. I don't think so.
I'm on his Truth Social right now.
Yeah, let's see what he said on Truth Social if you have it.
Yeah, I'm pulling. Let me share a screen with you so you can see what I'm looking at here. Give me 1 sec.
He also attacked Tucker, Megyn Kelly, and Candace again, and Alex Jones.
Yeah, of course.
Again?
Yeah, he attacked, or Joe Kent, sorry. He did another attack, yeah.
Oh,
All
of
right, we
course.
need you to read that shit in the Trump voice, bro. What the? Okay, not Truth Lies. Okay, Donald Trump. Let's see. Okay, 1 hour may have been a historic day for Lebanon. Good things are happening. President. Okay, this is an hour ago. I hope Hezbollah acts nicely and well during this important period of time. It will be a great moment for them if they do. No more killing. Must finally have peace. Complains about a judge. Out of control. More people that hate him. White House has a ballroom. Trump hating judge. Yo, this bro, he hates these judges, bro.
Yeah.
Who's dumber? Oh, okay.
I'm looking at it right now, which is why I'm smiling. I have it on my screen. I can just read it from yours.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I guess he attacked them. So he says, who's dumber, Tucker Carlson or Joe Kent? It's very interesting. I met Joe Kent at Dover Air Force Base, along with numerous others who had lost their loved ones in war. I said hello to all of the families. Kent horribly lost his wife. Her casket was being brought to Dover, along with the rest, although he married again quite quickly, in my opinion.
Holy shit.
I haven't read this before. This is funny. If you guys don't know, Joe Kent's wife, and this part isn't funny, his wife was killed in a suicide bombing in Syria back in, what was it, 2016? Am I right there? It was
fighting ISIS.
over 10 years ago, yeah, from some ISIS suicide bombing. So very unfortunate circumstances for Joe Kent. And of course, Trump is not sensitive to that whatsoever. And so he says, married quite quickly, in my opinion. In any event, a number of years later, I noticed the same person was running for Congress in Washington State and lost. I then noticed a couple of years later, he was running again and lost. While I didn't know him other than our brief Dover encounter, but feeling sorry for him after 2 election losses, I told my people, hire him for the White House, give him a job, make him feel good. He lost his wife in 2 elections. They did so. And while I rarely saw him, I certainly didn't expect disloyalty, but that's what I got. He was really a sleazebag. And some would say, on top of it all, a leaker. I don't know whether or not the guy that was true, but next time, no more Mr. Nice Guy. Kent is a loser, just like Tucker, Candace, Megyn, and the rest of them are losers. Says you're born that way, low IQ, and there's not a damn thing they're going to be able to do about it. President Donald J. Trump. The low IQ thing is really funny. So if you guys don't know, Joe Kent was the chief of counterterrorism under the National Director for Intelligence, that being Tulsi Gabbard. So he worked for Trump inside of the cabinet. And he was given this position, I would imagine, actually graciously by Trump, because this guy did try to run for Congress twice and lost, both times being pretty narrow, actually. And so, of course, Trump felt bad for the guy. This guy wanted political power. He was formerly a Green Beret in the Middle East, special military officer, has a lot of experience working for the CIA, so on and so forth. This guy probably knows a lot of things that we don't know, or we would like to think we have a better idea of than we really do. So he knows a lot of classified intel and shit, and he stepped down from his position of counterterrorism in the beginning of the war, expressing condemnation for Trump's irresponsible actions in starting this war, saying that we were doing the bidding of Israel. My brother's going to pull up the letter right now, I assume. And so Joe Kent, right off the bat, went against Trump when he started this war, and of course, that really pissed Donald Trump off more than anything, and of course, that's why he's attacking him, leveraging his dead wife against him, and everything else in between.
100 million, bro.
And
this million views.
When this happened, it was pretty viral because there was some discontent and people were expressing that they weren't so on board with the war, but it was a little bit more vague. There was a shadow effect to it. Joe Kent was really one of the first prominent figures to completely disavow Trump in this war. And so that is why it was huge, because he kind of led the revolution of everybody else who has now hopped off the MAGA train. He was first, you know. Tucker was kind of there as well, but no one was as explicit in their condemnation about how upset they were about this conflict until this happened. Then people started to follow. Slowly but surely, the dominoes started to fall. And so this is why Trump really hates this guy. You can imagine he got him a job inside of the White House under intelligence you know, national national chief of counterterrorism, whatever. And so this guy has intimate knowledge of Iran and everything like that. And like I said, everybody within the intelligence community knows this war is a bad idea. Joe Kent, of course, vindicated us there. Do you want to read the letter? I don't know if you guys have seen this, but
you can read it for them if you want.
Yeah, so this was his letter, just to kind of paint the full picture, because I'm sure a lot of you don't know. Yeah, I can see it. So he said, after much reflection, I have decided to resign from my position of director of the National Counterterrorism Center effective today. I cannot in good conscience support the ongoing war with Iran. Iran posed no imminent threat to our nation, and it is clear we started this war due to pressure from Israel and its powerful American lobby. I support the values and the foreign policies that you campaigned on.
Oh, someone that worked under the presidency is literally admitting that there's Jewish power over the American lobby. Like, it legit says it right there. Someone that worked inside the politics in America. Bro,
2016,
come on, bro.
2020, and 2024. Of course, this message is to Trump, which you enacted in your first term until June of 2025. This is when we bombed Iran's nuclear facilities, Isfahan, and Fordow, and what's the other one? Why am I blanking right now? Natanz. And he continues on. You understood that wars in the Middle East were a trap that robbed America of the precious lives of our patriots and depleted the wealth and the prosperity of our nation. In your first administration, you understood better than any modern president how to decisively apply military power without getting us drawn into never-ending wars. You demonstrated this by killing Qasem Soleimani and by defeating ISIS. Qasem Soleimani was the head of the Axis of Resistance, Iran's proxy network across the Middle East, really focused in southern Lebanon, Hamas in the Gaza Strip, and then the Houthis in Yemen. He continues on to say, early in this administration, high-ranking Israeli officials and influential members of the American media deployed a misinformation campaign that wholly undermined your America First platform and sowed pro-war sentiments to encourage a war with Iran. This echo chamber was used to deceive you into believing that Iran posed an imminent threat to the United States and that you should strike now. There was a clear path to swift victory. This was a lie, and this is the same tactic Israelis used to draw us into the disastrous war that cost us, our nation, the lives of thousands of our best men and women. We cannot make this mistake again. As a veteran who deployed to combat 11 times, and as a Gold Star husband who lost my beloved wife Shannon in a war manufactured by Israel, I cannot support sending the next generation off to fight and die in a war that serves no benefit to the American people nor justifies the cost of American lives. I pray that you will reflect upon what we are doing in Iran and who we are doing it for. The time for bold action is now. You can reverse course and chart a new path for our nation, or you can allow us to slip further, forward decline, and chaos. You hold the cards. It was an honor to serve in your administration and to serve our great nation, Joe Kent. So, of course, you can imagine for obvious reasons why that letter infuriated Trump. And look, he kind of says something that everybody had an idea about, really everybody in the community who does political commentary. Benjamin Netanyahu went to Washington and Mar-a-Lago a total of 7 times. And so Joe Kent is saying, you listen to Netanyahu. That's why you started this war. We know what he was telling you. We know what Mossad was telling you. We know what Israeli intelligence was telling you. They said this war would be easy. And me and the rest of the IC told you, and obviously he wasn't talking directly to Trump, but this was his standpoint as well. This war would not be easy. And he knows that this was echoed across the entire administration, at least from Tulsi Gabbard and others, yet Trump still went to war with Iran. So when you look at it from the grand scheme of things, not only is this guy exposing that Trump made a mistake, but more importantly, he's highlighting the fact that Trump is controlled by Israel. And of course, that's highly offensive for Donald Trump because he wants to seem like this independent go-getter who makes decisions on his own behalf. But, I mean, it's become increasingly obvious now that's not the
And Joe's been nice about it too. He's like
very
purposely trying not to bash Trump and shit like that. He gives him credit for Soleimani, whatever, which I would say Soleimani actually made things worse, but that's a whole other conversation.
And he acknowledges that in the letter. You know, he says you killed Qasem Soleimani. We knew why, you know, so.
No, he praises him for it, actually.
Oh, okay. Then
praises him for killing Soleimani. He said like basically, hey, you were able to use force, limited force to achieve an objective, like, and this isn't the way.
Yeah.
Do you want to do Tucker or Ben?
This is funny. Let's do Ben.
You want to do Ben first?
Yeah. So I guess he attacks Sneeko and then the Manosphere that was highlighted in the documentary on Netflix. That's his whole thing here.
Well, no, this is something else. I don't know what. I haven't seen this video. I saw it came out 2 days ago.
All right, let's.
But we could do Tucker if you want, since we already covered Tucker a little bit. Fuck, let's do Tucker, then we'll do Ben.
Entirely up to you. Let's play this. We got it up now. We got it up now. Let's play it.
America itself is corrupt and evil. America has sold out its heritage. for a pittance of goods, that America can only regain its heritage by basically destroying itself. We got to talk about the fact that there are these influencers who are talking largely to young men, but they are clearly also mirroring perspectives that are anti-American, really mirroring perspectives that are and being used by foreign figures in order to promote radical.
Isn't that hilarious when he's the one being used by a foreign figure? Well, he's a foreign figure himself.
Yeah.
But, you know.
Ben just can't. I don't know. How much longer is he going to hide behind the mask? Isn't he dropping subs and views like every single day? It's just, it's astounding to see how long he can keep this up and how many people actually enjoy this. But anyways, let's keep going.
Apparently 1,000 people went out to UPenn to see him yesterday.
One of these people is a guy named Sneeko. Okay, so Sneeko is a 27-year-old streamer. He says that Hitler has aura and that women should be barred from voting and that Yahya Sinwar, the leader of Hamas, was a hero and that the Jews run society. His actual real name is Nicholas Ken Balanthese. Apparently, he converted to Islam shortly ago. Here he was on the streets of New York just a couple of nights ago, chanting in favor of genociding the Jews.
Majority of guys who are unaware of this formula and do not use this formula, unfortunately,
we don't give a fuck. Go back to kitchen. What the fuck is this? Go back to kitchen.
Bro, I knew they were gonna use this clip, bro. Yo, I saw this shit on Twitter. I was like, yep, niggas are saving this, sending it to the ADL.
I'll say this.
I right away, bro.
I saw surprised.
This, right? Remember, I was like, yo.
Dude, I'm surprised the condemnation was not as strong as it was. Honestly, they didn't jump on it the way I thought this was going to be a Club of Cost too. Like I thought this was going to reach that level because obviously because of what he's saying. And that's not explicitly what he's saying, but
it's clear he's fucking around. He's trolling, like, but they're obviously been taking it a big deal. Do you want to give them the lore on this phrase?
Yeah, play it. What's he saying? He's saying Khaybar, right?
He's saying Khaybar, yeah, hood, yeah.
Yeah. So he's just talking about a historical Islamic event and where, you know, so here's the full context. The Islamic prophet lived in Mecca and then Medina, but there was also this other city or real tribe called Khaybar, right? Comprised of Arab Jews. And so it was a battle that was known, I think in 628, if I'm not mistaken, between the Muslims and the Jews. That's the real gist of it, as well as the fact that Muslims and Jews did not get along in the province of Medina, which was the prophet's city when he was exiled from Mecca. And so there's always been like this back and forth blood in pre-Islamic or, you know, post-Islamic history where after the inception of the Islamic prophet, the Jews were trying to exile him from the city that he exiled to, that being Medina, as well as undermine him. They created several contracts with the prophet, and then they actually tried to kill him on several instances, tried to assassinate him. They tried to poison him with a leg of lamb that they gifted to him. They killed his companion by poisoning him. They did magic on him.
A Jewish woman did it, by the way.
Yeah.
A Jewish woman poisoned him.
Yeah. And so it was really a battle of removing their influence from the city because they kept trying to undermine the prophet even though they had signed a peace treaty with him. And so they continuously committed treason. So that's the real kind of like general lore as to why the early Muslims fought with the Arab Jews in Medina. And interestingly enough, the Jews...
We can never trust them, bro. We can't. It's fucking impossible. You never trust him, bro. Never.
Actually recognized him as a quote-unquote prophet. You can find this in academic Islamic literature that is vetted rigorously through a chain of narration where there are several Jews that actually admitted, wait, this guy fulfills prophecy, so we're going to attack him even more now because he's not a Jew, he's an Arab. And so there was this whole thing between them. And so what he's screaming...
There's Mizrahi Jews, just so you guys probably wondering, like, what are you talking about? There are Arab Jews, guys. They're called Mizrahis. Go ahead.
Yeah. No, that's really the long and short of it. But it was a famous battle, and so like, you know, that's like something that Muslims Muslims have used against kind of you know, Jewish people when they're fighting. They say Khaybar. They'll say it when they refer to like Israel. And there's several instances in Islamic history where the Muslims and Jews clashed heads. You have that. You have Bani Qurayza, which is another tribe that the Muslims fought and eventually executed because of their treason. So there's so many different things, but obviously the tension has a long history. And that's actually just to say this really quickly before we get back into the video, something important to note is people always say that, you know, the Jewish people and the Christian people really are the ones having the tension and the strife, and that's because, you know, Catholics and white Christians and European Christians expunged them or expelled them from their countries in Europe and everything like that. And even though there's truth to that, and that's kind of the main grievance, there is also tension from Jews and Muslims ever since Islam was created, and that was when they tried to kill the Prophet like 4 or 5 times.
Jews are the ones
And so
creating
that's
the
where
main
that comes
problem
from as
between
well. So
everyone.
it exists in early Islamic history too. People always think that because the Ottomans offered the Jews safe conduct in their lands and try to save them from their persecution, that the history's always been positive, but it actually started out very rocky, then it smoothed out, now it's rocky again. So that's kind of like the historical relation between Muslims and the Jewish people as a whole.
Yeah. Now, the ADL and people like Ben Shapiro, whenever people talk about this conflict, they're like, "Oh my God, it's a call to, and what's the word I want to use here?
Violence. It's a call to violence.
Yeah.
They say this is an anti-Semitic call to violence. It's something that's used by these proxy networks that belong to Iran, right? And it's something that's used famously in the Middle East. You know, a lot of people say it as like maybe even a running joke, but really like, you know, this anti-Israel, anti-Jewish war chant, or chant that's provocative, that's known to get them very mad, you know. So it's one of those buzzwords that you got to steer clear of saying.
ADL labels it as like a T phrase. My brother's on YouTube, so I'll keep it simple. But like, yeah, I knew right away, bro. I saw the clip. I could tell Sneak, because I know Sneako personally. I could tell he's joking around and fucking around and trolling.
Yeah.
But I knew they were gonna take that clip and like try to run with something else. I fucking knew it, bro. And just as expected, all the idiots on Twitter, IL, idiot, that retard, this guy, Ben Shapiro, I knew right away. I was like, yeah, they're gonna run with this shit and go crazy, even though it's just fucking around.
Ayman, Haymar, Yaya, Hud, Takbir, Jaish Muhammad, Sabayun, Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar.
Why are you showing this dog? Bro, why are you showing this dog shit, bro?
So why am I bringing this up? Because there are a lot of young people who watch this person and treat this
Clearly he's fucking around, but obviously he's going to take it seriously, right? So
person with seriousness. And he recently did a podcast with two figures who are foreign figures who are openly advocating for the demise of American power internationally. That'd be Alexander Dugin, who is a propagandist on behalf of Vladimir Putin, and a professor named Zhang Jiqin. You'll remember him from the Tucker Carlson show, where he claimed that
Did you watch this interview? I didn't watch this interview.
I didn't see it.
Sneak on this guy? Okay.
The United States should basically give up power
that's what
to
he's
China.
referring to.
And
Professor Zhang is who he's talking about? Oh, I didn't even recognize it because of the way he said
And
it.
Dugin. And Dugin, the Russian guy.
Oh, no, I only caught a glimpse of it. I was not able to watch all of it. I'm sure he was not happy about that, though. I'm sure.
Also, he claims, of course,
Nightmare
that the
lineup
Illuminati
for him.
run the world.
Yep.
And all the rest of this sort of junk. Well, Alexander Dugin and this Chinese professor, Zhang, they've been making this case, again, throughout sort of right-wing manosphere Podcastistan. And it does demonstrate the extent to which foreign influences really have grabbed a foothold. It's amazing. Many of the people claiming foreign influence on President Trump.
How can you talk about foreign influence if your country, Israel, Jews, Zionism is controlling pretty much America, and I can argue that it's pretty much controlling Europe as well, to a certain extent. Right, bro, what the fuck are you talking about? You already control everything. Shut the fuck up, bro. Like what?
Are themselves acting as
This guy talking about foreign influence is fucking joke, bro. That's crazy. Bro, Netanyahu is your right-hand man, bro. You're friends with Netanyahu. What are you talking about?
Agents of foreign influence for propagandists of actual foreign regimes. It's pretty incredible, actually.
So
Here,
stupid.
for example, was Alexander Dugin with
The lack of awareness is absolutely fucking insane. It's like, bro, you are the biggest Israeli propagandist. I would argue, yeah, Ben is the biggest Israel propagandist in America, potentially. He's in the top 3.
He's the first.
Can you think anyone? He's number 1,
the
right?
first. Yeah, he's the first. He's
trying
more
to think of
popular.
anybody else that's
I think
bigger.
Ben Shapiro is a bigger household name than somebody like maybe Mark Levin, or I don't know.
Yeah, he is. Yeah.
Bill, what's the other guy's name that has a late night talk show?
Oh, Bill Maher.
Like I think those guys are negligible compared to Ben, because remember, just a couple years ago, before the whole October 7th situation happened that really changed the world, Ben Shapiro was kind of revered on the right, even from a lot of Christians, a lot of people who are not aware of
True.
the Middle Eastern conflict. People
That's right.
loved him. You know, he was known as this vicious debater that destroyed the left-wing students and was really good at speaking.
And then his
always had
mask.
base takes. You know, facts don't care about your feelings. His whole rhetoric. And then, of course, October 7th happened, and we realized this nigga was a
And then
double
the
agent.
mask.
So
Yeah, the
things
mask
changed
fell
very
off.
quickly for him.
He was smart. What he did was when he blew up, he focused on domestic issues. When he did the college debates and shit like that, he rarely, if ever, talked about Middle Eastern foreign policy. Like almost never, because there was no need, because there was no pushback on the Israel lobby. Nobody knew. But now that everyone like came out and started being critical of Israel, he had to come out and defend Israel, and that's when he got exposed.
Yeah.
Yep.
That's what fucked him up. This guy never used to talk foreign policy and geopolitical affairs.
He had to show face. He had to show face. October 7th was very pivotal for a lot of content creators and political commentators, man, because it showed where your allegiance really lied and how honest you were willing to be, even if it meant a financial hit. So, you know, it exposed Ben like none else. And if you were privy to the
He was a
situation,
culture warrior, bro. Guys like him, Steven Crowder, etc. Like these guys are culture warriors. That's what they do. Like these guys are not strong political these guys are not strong geopolitical commentators. They're strong culture warriors, American domestic policy, American politics. When it comes to like the Middle East and foreign policy, like both of them are kind of, you know, it's not their thing. Like,
no, they're lazy. They're good at telling people what they want to hear in regards to this war, right? Steven Crowder, just because of the culture, and then Ben Shapiro, obviously, because he's loyal to Israel.
He's Israeli,
so they both have their different motivations, but certainly they come from the same cloth when it comes to that. So that's very true. And by the way, this guy has been weaponizing Islamic terrorism from like 2020, 2021. Like he's been making videos on it. He's been talking about how Islamic terrorism is a big issue, how it affects the world. And so people have been eating it up for years. You know, he's been a big voice on that as well. Ben Shapiro and Steven Crowder.
True.
Yeah, and that's why I tell you guys all the time, like, you really don't want to watch most right-wingers because you guys got to understand, covering domestic policy and culture war issues is one thing, but covering geopolitics is a whole other angle. And a lot of times it's not even really a right-wing or left-wing issue when it comes to geopolitical affairs.
أنا نسمع النازحة من معسكر جبال.
No. Okay, we finished our video.
So a couple major developments have happened since I went live just yesterday, about 12 hours ago, 11 hours ago. And that's in regards to Donald Trump. Of course, Donald Trump has been the center point of every single live that I've done the last 3 weeks. And of course, that's due to the fact that he's the president and his updates on the war have not actually been in line with truth. And of course, the IRGC, Abbas Araghchi being the foreign minister and Mohammed Gharibaf being the parliament speaker have come out on Twitter several times, and today being another instance where they have denied his claims. If you haven't been paying attention, and I'm going to read an article out of Axios, this article has kind of went viral on X, everybody's talking about it. Donald Trump has said that we may have a second round of peace talks this weekend. So obviously the weekend has approached us now. It's Friday night.
Not true.
A couple countries like Pakistan and Egypt, a few others had a quad meeting today in regards to brokering another peace talk or peace deal, or at the minimum extending the ceasefire. If you don't know, our previous talks with our Middle Eastern envoy and the Iranian delegation, that being led by J.D. Vance and then Stephen Witkoff and Jared Kushner, took place last Saturday. Didn't really make any much of a difference. The talks had failed. J.D. Vance spoke to the White House and told us literally that the talks did not get anywhere. He said it was a good thing that we were able to come to the table and talk, but we were not able to agree on, of course, the nuclear deal or nuclear stipulations, which is, of course, expected. That's why we're allegedly at war with Iran. That I give credit to. That's true, only to some degree. But anyways, you know, so that's where we currently are. Trump is saying that we may be closer to peace, but Trump has also bragged and boasted about the fact that the Strait of Hormuz is open. And that is true, actually. For the first time, Trump actually said something that ended up being confirmed by IRGC officials. Abbas Araghchi said the passage for all commercial vessels through the Strait of Hormuz is declared completely open for the remaining period of the ceasefire. Remember, the ceasefire is going to last only up until the 21st or the 22nd. So next week, either Tuesday.
So today was the last day or tomorrow is the last day, just to let you know, guys. So be prepared for the prices to rise up again.
Tuesday or Wednesday.
That's all I'm saying.
On the coordinated routes as already announced by Ports and Maritime Organization of the Islamic Republic of Iran. Translation, simply put, we control the strait and we've decided to open it up since the ceasefire has 6 or 7 days left, or 5 days left now at this point. We will try and remedy some of the damage that's been dealt to the global oil market as a result of our blockade. And so He said this today.
At least it's decided to help the
earlier
people.
Today, when we were live yesterday, about 12 or 11 hours ago. And, you know, of course, now Iran is making a ton of money. Remember, they only have the Strait opened for certain passageways within the water. That's what I'm reading, at least. And so it seems as if though they're tolling these ships. The problem is Donald Trump is now blocking Iranian ports. The U.S. Navy has now begun this blockade, and I spoke about this yesterday, so go check out my most recent video if you haven't been updated on this. I can't go all the way back because the monologue will be 10 years long. But essentially, we've tried to block Iranian ports to choke their government, to choke their economy. In response to them, of course, choking the Strait of Hormuz, or really just blocking it, which has made us suffer as a result. Really more so the world, but we're feeling it too. And I'll tell you why later. So Donald Trump thought, let's block these Iranian ports. And so we've stopped about 12 or 11 vessels at this point from entering the Iranian ports or leaving. So imports and exports. And of course, this is to add pressure to the Iranian economy, the government that's already, by the way, struggling, of course, due to our sanctions and then this war that has not helped the issue at all. And hopefully, in doing this, the plan, at least from the administration, is to get Iran to come to the table. And it's funny because Trump was saying prior, well, Iran is really desperate for a deal, but we're making or taking actions to increase their desperation to make a deal. So it doesn't seem like they're actually desperate because we are taking extreme measures to push them to that desperation that will eventually allow them to concede to some sort of nuclear give up of their weapons or anything like that. That's at least what JD Vance was hinting at when he spoke to the White House last week. So obviously there's not much pressure on them to come to some sort of peace deal. And what's the reason is because Iran is kind of already on the downside.
Yeah.
They're fighting in a positive manner from their direction, a war of attrition. They're making this asymmetric for the United States. And they're also showing that the United States doesn't have the deterrent it claims it does. They've shot down a couple jets. They've shot down a lot of our aircrafts. Unfortunately, there have been some casualties, but there's been no ground element. So of course that's expected to be low. Let's hope it stays that way. But despite our vicious air campaign, Iran still seems to be in it. They still seem to have the ability to fight, at least the IRGC. Now, have we destroyed them militarily? Sure. We have destroyed their navy. For the most part, at least. They still have certain assets that actually help them in the Strait of Hormuz to secure their plan and keeping it blockaded or propose a threat to these ships that pass through. But for the most part, we've, kind of decentralized their navy. We've destroyed a good deal of their air force and everything else. And so all they have left, of course, is their missiles program and their drones. And then, of course, their nuclear enrichment that they're doing all underground, by the way, or at least a lot of it is underground. Every part of those programs that were above ground have already been destroyed by our air campaign. So at this point, we've kind of reached a stalemate or a crossroads. There's nothing left to destroy of value except for their power plants. Remember, Donald Trump had threatened, we're going to destroy their power plants. And he didn't do it. And that's what allowed us to enter into this peace deal. China got involved. Pakistan got involved and said, whoa, this has gone too far. We don't want this war to take that step because that will push us to the point of no return. If we destroy Iranian power plants, then the country will be without power, water, hospitals will lose generators, people in ICUs will die, babies,
and
all these crazy things will happen to the civilian population, as well as the fact that they probably won't have much food or water left in the next few days. These power plants, these electric grids are everything for any sort of country in the world. And so Trump was threatening to, quote unquote, send them back to the Stone Age, right? That's what he means by that. That's what the result would be of hitting their power plants or their power grid. Pete Hegseth said that as well. We would send them back to the Stone Age, we'll kill a whole civilization tonight. That's what Donald Trump was saying. And of course, Trump is losing it. He's saying crazy shit. I'm not being a pussy softo by, oh my God, Trump, why would you say that? Yeah, it's unprofessional, it's stupid, but we've already acknowledged that. Let's move past that. The issue is now there's no real option. And that's what I was trying to say a moment ago. There's no real option here for the United States except to enter a second stage of this war and I guess try the air assault again, or try to get this nuclear enriched uranium that's likely underground. And Iran has enriched a lot of this uranium to 60%. However, where it gets dangerous or weapons grade, I suppose, is 90%. Remember, previously it was 3% under the Iranian nuclear deal. Now, of course, they've gone to 60%. I want to explain this because I think a lot of people don't actually understand this. And I notice when I'm looking at the chat and I'm monologuing about this stuff, people are really confused. Remember, Iran was always just kind of hedging. That's the whole strategy, is nuclear hedging. So they never actually were going to make a bomb. And that's because of a religious ruling from several decades ago by the Ayatollah. It's called a fatwa. And in this religious ruling, he said that they are not allowed to make a nuclear bomb. That
Yeah,
guy's
who
dead now.
guessed?
And his son is now in power, and he's a lot more extreme. So we'll see what comes of that. But regardless, Iran has always had the pieces in front of them to make a bomb, but never did. And the whole point of that is to symbolically raise that we don't want you to attack us. So we won't make a bomb as long as you don't attack us. That's the whole point of like hedging a nuke. They could have made a bomb years ago. They have the capability to do so quite quickly. And so what prompted them to speed up this nuclear enrichment and actually try and make a bomb, right? It was the
America
12-day war,
and
really.
Israel.
Israel
Yeah.
attacked them in June, Operation Rising Lion, the 12-day war, and then President Trump put a cap on it with Operation Midnight Hammer. We bombed their nuclear facilities, whatever have you. In that bombing campaign, Operation Midnight Hammer with the B-2 bomber and everything like that, I believe it was a B-2 bomber, we set their nuclear program back, allegedly to Trump, 6 years, 5 years. That's what I was saying, but he said we obliterated it. We set it back several years. Let's just say
really
that.
changed
I
a
can't
lot.
remember the amount of time he said. But he said that we put a huge dent in it. And so if that was the case, we wouldn't have to attack them in February, but we did because we probably didn't set it back that far. I'd say maybe a year at most, but realistically a few months. So the point here to understand and why I'm going over all this is now Iran, and this is the problem I don't see a lot of people talking about. If Iran was ever going to make a nuke or make a big dirty bomb, as they say in the White House, well, now would be the time.
Now is the time, yeah.
Because they've been attacked. And so now hedging doesn't work. We've tried to hedge. We've tried to push close to making a bomb so we can deter you. But us being close to making a bomb actually created the opposite effect. It made you attack us. So now it seems like we have to just have a bomb to guarantee our safety. And that's the position that the United States has forced Iran into. What does that mean for the second stage of this war if it happens after the 22nd when the ceasefire is over?
Simple.
That means that if we don't get a promise from Iran to not make a bomb or to not enrich the uranium to 60% or even higher, then we're going to have to continue this military campaign because now we have exacerbated an existing issue that we now must actually control. Do you understand? If there's any time that they'll make a bomb, it is now.
It is
and I'm
now.
not saying they're going to race to a nuke. I know there haven't been any official sources that have said such a thing, but I mean, you got to use your head. If you're Iran and you've been hedging a nuke at 60% for years, or just a few years after the killing of their big leaders in 2020, like Qasem Soleimani and then Hassan Nasrallah 4 years later, these are the leaders of their proxy group or the Axis of Resistance. Well then, you know, at this point, it makes sense after this 40-day, 50-day conflict at this point to actually just go ahead and finish the bomb. So that's my main concern is we are struggling to come to a deal about the enriched uranium and what happens with it. And so that's expected. I'm not really making a big spectacle of that. But my concern is what is Iran doing underground right now? You know, it's no longer hedging, it's racing to a nuke. And this is what Mark Levin said, right? This is what Stephen Witkoff said before the conflict to motivate us to get into war. Benjamin Netanyahu, Israeli intelligence, they said, well, they're just a second away from a bomb. You know, they're going to make a bomb any second. Mark Levin, I think he said they have chemical weapons. Stephen Witkoff said they're 1 week away from a nuclear bomb. They weren't, though, you know, and that was their said intention. That's what hedging a nuke is. It's a political strategy to protect your sovereignty. One that obviously didn't work. So the presupposed next step, obviously that only leaves one next step, is to make a bomb. You know, threatening to make one didn't work. Now we're just going to make one. And if you're not informed, they have the ability to 1,000,000% make one and fairly quickly, maybe in the next 5 or 6 months. So what happens over the next 5 or 6 months? Because here's the thing. The United States would love to pull out right now. I think, of course, the entire administration knows, but even Donald Trump knows this war is really starting not to make sense. And if we enter the next phase or the second stage, if the war is restarted, which is what all the experts are saying they see happening in the next few weeks, well, then this is going to continue to be an attritional war, asymmetric, and we may have to introduce boots on ground. The reason why Trump is afraid to pull out, aside from the fact that it's going to look really bad for him politically because we actually achieved none of our goals, is now we leave Iran alone after destroying them for 50 days. It's not going to be a 60% enriched uranium situation anymore. Now we're racing to a nuke.
Probably.
And that's really the demoralizing or daunting aspect of all of this that I don't see anybody mentioning. We can't pull out because if we pull out, Big Bomb is actually coming this time around because The guy who said no big bomb is dead. We
Dead.
killed him day one of this conflict.
Yep.
And his son is a lot more crazy than him. And now he's in leadership. And his whole family was killed by U.S.-Israeli joint airstrikes. So if we pull out, we are just a sitting duck to allow this country to create a bomb. That's why J.D. Vance, Donald Trump, that's why we've reached at straws. We've really been desperate to try and make some sort of nuclear deal with Iran because we want to just walk away from this, but now we can't. We kind of, I suppose, struck the iron while it was hot, but that worked against us. And this is what I've been saying all along. Not only would this be a regional conflict, which it turned out to be a huge regional mess, but now we have poked the bear. And that's the issue. Now, if we continue our war, then Iran may not be able to make a bomb. And if that's the case, we may have to continue the war. It's quite straightforward, isn't it? So, a lot of problems here. I know that we've reached a point where I believe the S&P 500 hit an all-time high a couple days ago, and so a lot of people are anticipating that the conflict is over, and oil prices seem to be calming down a little bit. I know Brent crude is around 91, so still not good, but it's a little bit better than where it was about a week ago at 106 or 108. But that's just because there's a ceasefire, and that's because Iran, by themselves, have allowed the Strait of Hormuz to open passage. You know, they've kind of let these ships pass through. So
an IQ of 85 to 115 is considered average in the U.S.
We don't care.
You know, this whole moment of peace, I think,
may
be short-lived. My
shit.
prediction here, and now we've gotten speculative, so this is not speaking on fact, but rather just what I think will happen. I think we will probably resume this conflict, and Trump is going to go back in and start the fighting because Iran is not going to agree to any of these maximalist demands that I'm going to read out of Axios right now. So I'll go ahead and read what the United States is proposing to Iran. Some of it sounds good, releasing $20 billion of frozen assets and everything like that. But overall, we are still making maximalist demands to halt or completely stop their nuclear capability or their program. So it's just a situation where, you know, both sides are pulling on the rope with equal force. And something's got to give. And I think that give will unfortunately be a second stage to this already disastrous conflict. So I'll read this article right here, and then we'll go through some of the statements from Donald Trump over the last few days. We'll go through some of the statements from Abbas Araghchi. Mohammad Ghalibaf just spoke about 2 hours ago. So lots of stuff to get into. But that's kind of the long and short of what I take of the situation. We don't want to pull out because they're going to make a big bomb.
Yeah,
that's
pretty much
quite obvious, I think, at this point.
At this point, that's pretty much what it is.
They weren't going to do it before, but now they have all the reason to. And this is what Netanyahu was echoing to Trump when he visited him 7 times in almost a year. He told him Iran is very close to a big bomb, but more importantly, at least for the present time, is they have a ballistic missiles program, mid-range missile program, capable of destroying Israel if they decided to. And that's kind of true, right? I'm not trying to give Netanyahu credibility here, but he's right in saying that Iran has a very capable missiles program. Don't believe me? Check back the last 40 days. They struck UAE 2,000 plus times. They hit Israel several hundred times. Every other Gulf country neighboring along the Gulf, all these GCC countries were subject to drone strikes. They hit a desalination plant in Kuwait that's responsible for converting ocean water to fresh drinking water and other purposes. They hit oil refineries, Aramco in Saudi Arabia. They hit an air base in Saudi Arabia, Prince Sultan Air Base, about southeast 2 hours of Riyadh, the capital of Saudi Arabia. And in hitting this U.S. air base, they destroyed our AWACS system and several other aircraft carriers or aircraft systems that are responsible for radar and things like that. And so they've displayed the fact that they have more than enough missiles to make this painful. And they've destroyed 13 U.S. bases across this entire conflict, or the 6 weeks that this conflict has lasted for. This is what Benjamin Netanyahu is concerned about. And
he wanted
as the
this,
ceasefire is going on, best believe all of this money that is being capitalized on, or all this money that they are making from the Strait of Hormuz or any support from China, they're just going to put it to their missiles program. They're going to build it back
probably.
up.
Yep.
If they've ever been building missiles rapidly, now would be the time. And it's all underground. It's all underground. In places we know about and places we don't know about. The drones as well. And then, of course, the enrichment. Lots of issues there. So, this is the result of listening to Israeli intelligence and not U.S. intelligence. Because what did U.S. intelligence tell Trump? He told,
was the opposite.
They told Trump, this is a bad idea.
Bad idea.
This will be a long-winded
Yeah.
conflict. You can't just conquer Persia. Everybody knows that. Anybody who has some sort of credibility, or really anybody in the IC,
Common
would
sense.
tell Donald Trump, this is a bad idea. Maybe we shouldn't bomb Iran. And that's why Obama did diplomacy with Iran. That's why the last 4 presidents, despite Netanyahu begging them to bomb Iran, said, I'm not going that far.
Yep.
Did you know that? Israeli officials have been begging the United States to bomb Iran for decades. Every single president said, that's beyond the pale. I can't go that far. So, and now Trump is bragging, saying, I was the one to do it. They're all wimps. No, you were the idiot to make the mistake. And now we are seeing the fruits of such a mistake, right? So this is out of Axios. This article was circulating all over X today. It's titled, United States Considers $20 billion Cash for Uranium Deal with Iran. So look at the desperation. Already, this is kind of vindicating what I said. We are so desperate to get them to come to a deal for the uranium. Because here's the thing too, and I know I'm just kind of elucidating what I'm saying. I'm not saying anything new, but maybe saying it in a different way will help you to understand better. We are doing everything in our power to make sure we don't have to continue to fight. Because if we do, to get this uranium taken care of, look, if Iran says we're not giving up uranium, we're not stopping our enrichment, we're not stopping anything with the nuclear program as a whole, that necessitates a boots on ground operation. That's the only way you can get it. You need excavators, you need
And we all know that that's not gonna
sensitive
happen.
devices, sensitive material. You need very qualified people to go and get this stuff out of the ground, very deep in the ground. So the United States is doing everything to avoid that. But likely they may have to take those steps, because I don't think Iran is going to give that up. And we have a statement from Iran out of Tasneem News that is going to tell you why they're not willing to give that up. Okay, so this is out of Axios. I thought, why not show it to you guys so you can read with me. Where do I put myself here so you guys can actually see it?
No, the bottom left.
Oh, well, I'm reading it for you. Lazy niggas. So this is out of Axios. The U.S. and Iran are negotiating over a 3-page plan to end the war, with one element under discussion being that the U.S. would release $20 billion in frozen Iranian funds in return for Iran giving up its stockpile of enriched uranium, according to 2 U.S. officials and 2 additional sources briefed on the talks. Why it matters: there has been steady progress in the talks this week, though significant gaps remain. A deal on these terms would bring the war to a close while potentially generating backlash from Iran hawks. President Trump said Thursday that the United States and Iranian negotiators would likely meet this weekend for a second round of talks to try and seal the deal. That's what I told you guys earlier. The talks are expected to take place again in Islamabad, likely on Sunday, according to a source familiar with the mediation efforts. Pakistan is mediating the negotiations with behind-the-scenes support from Egypt and Turkey. Breaking it down, a top priority for the Trump administration is ensuring Iran cannot access the stockpile of nearly 2,000 kilograms of enriched uranium buried in its underground nuclear facilities. In particular, the 450 kilograms enriched to 60% purity. The Iranians, meanwhile, need money. The parties are negotiating over what will happen to the stockpile and how much of Iran's assets will be unfrozen. They are also discussing the terms on which Iran could use that money. Trump wrote on Truth Social after this story published that no money will change hands, though he didn't refer specifically to the idea of unblocking Iranian funds. Who cares what Trump says on Truth Social at this point? It'll just confuse you more than it will help you. Sure. According to 2 sources, the U.S. was ready in an earlier stage of the negotiations to release $6 billion for Iran to purchase food, medicine, and other humanitarian supplies. The Iranians demanded $27 billion instead. And that was probably the total of what they're missing from the United States. And that was in the news, of course. I spoke about that last week after the failed talks and
after all the
fucking
damage
we tried to do this whole thing where we would release assets, and I think some of them we did, but of course it wasn't enough. And now we're blocking their ports, so we're only going to make this issue worse. Materials to the United States, while the Iranians only agreed to, quote, downblend it inside Iran. Under a compromise proposal now under discussion, some of the highly enriched uranium would be shipped to a third country, not necessarily the US, and some of it would be downblended in Iran under international monitoring. We had that set up with the IAEA in 2016, by the way. The three-page memorandum of understanding MOU the 2 sides are negotiating over also includes a, quote, voluntary moratorium on nuclear enrichment by Iran. The U.S. demanded in the last round of talks that Iran agreed to a 20-year moratorium Iran countered with 5 years. The mediators are still trying to close that gap. As a part of the MOU, Iran would be allowed to have nuclear research reactors for the production of medical isotopes, but would pledge that all of its nuclear facilities would be above ground. The existing underground facilities will remain out of commission. The MOU also deals with the Strait of Hormuz. Through the sources, said there are still significant gaps on that issue. It's unclear if the MOU refers to Iran's ballistic missile and its support for regional proxies. Israel and Republican hawks in Washington have previously demanded that those topics be on the table in any negotiations with Iran, which they definitely will be. Republicans and Trump himself also lambasted President Obama for releasing tens of billions in Iranian funds under the 2015 nuclear deal. Yeah, the issue there is that belonged to them, though. The Trump administration may insist on limiting how the unfrozen assets can be used. Iran has moved, but not far enough. What it takes to make them move forward, we will see, the second U.S. official said. By the way, remember, guys, if we control the way, just as a quick reference so you kind of get why that doesn't work, if we unfreeze these assets, but we nanny them on how it's being spent, well, then it's all for nothing, because I'll be honest here, they're going to fund their proxies with it. Like, that's probably the biggest move they're going to take in a lot of those assets being unfrozen. That's actually why Israel was so upset about the first Iranian nuclear deal, the JCPOA, is because, well, this is what Netanyahu had said. We are concerned that they're going to fund their proxies further as a result from the released sanctions of the United States. We release sanctions, their economy bolsters, it buckles down, and the first thing they're going to do is fund Hezbollah. It's probably true.
True.
So, is Iran going to concede to having assets unfrozen if it means they can't spend it the way they see fit and it's monitored? That's another question, right? That can also jeopardize these talks and the deal. Lots of issues here, lots of holes. Iran clearly wants the $20 billion and a lot more. They clearly want to sell oil at a free market rate without sanctions. They want to participate in the global financial system, but they also want to have this nuclear weapons program. They want to fund terrorists like Hamas, and they don't want to give up. They don't want to give that up enough to get the things we're offering, the official added. White House spokesperson Anna Kelly said talks had been productive, but the United States would not negotiate through the press, adding anonymous sources who claim to know about the sensitive diplomatic discussions have no idea what they are talking about. Yeah, but I mean, context clues are pretty obvious, right? Senator Lindsey Graham told Fox News that Trump had negotiated spoken directly with the Iranians, and that things got sporty on a recent call.
Sporty.
So, you know, I'll kind of conclude here. It says what to watch. On Friday, the Pakistani, Egyptian, and Turkish mediators will hold a meeting, a quad meeting, with Saudi officials on the sideline of a diplomatic forum in Turkey. So that's right now, actually. The meeting will focus on the efforts to broker a deal between the U.S. and Iran. Likely that was actually earlier, because in that region, they're about 7 or 8 hours ahead of us. So, you know, quite interesting. We've got a situation where now Israel and Lebanon have come together for a ceasefire. One that I didn't see coming, I'll be honest.
Finally, I didn't know that.
We are approaching a second round of talks. I don't know who's going to be a part of them. I don't know if it's going to be in Islamabad this time. That's what Axios is saying on Sunday. I don't know how much I believe that may be true. Hopefully it is. But again, in these talks, we're going to have to go over the whole nuclear issue. And the reason why I'm concerned, I suppose I can show you better than I can tell you, is I'll read directly from Tasnim, all of these verified outlets. Iran said that its enriched uranium is, quote, as sacred to us as the soil of Iran and will not be transferred anywhere under any circumstances.
Well, it looks like
that 60% enriched uranium.
I mean, just from hearing that alone, I don't think there's going to be having a deal between them. That's a first.
Uranium will not leave the country in any way, per Iran's foreign ministry via Tasnim News.
Well, looks
Remember,
like
in the Axios deal, one of the stipulations for this nuclear deal to actually take place is that we move a lot of the stockpile and we downsize its enrichment. So that's something Iran is not willing to concede on.
So it looks like it's
They've
going to be
already
no deal.
conceded in a way from their perspective by it being at 60%. And now they want the nuclear facilities above ground. Why? So the U.S. can just bomb them. Of course. Isn't that quite obvious? So we want to expose their nuclear assets. So if we do need to destroy them again, it's a two-step process like it was in June, right? With Fordo, Natanz, and Isfahan. And Trump made a bold claim earlier. We can react to this. let's take a quick look here.
Of course he did. Bro, how many fucking times are you gonna have one?
He says on Truth Social, this was today, this morning at 9 a.m. He says, the USA will get all nuclear, quote, dust created by our great B-2 bombers. No money will exchange hands in any way.
He's threatening to nuke fucking Iran, bro. This president is fucking retarded. By saying this shit, Iran wants to make a bomb faster than ever. Like, this is stupid. This is fucking stupid.
Shape or form, this deal is in no way subject to Lebanon either, but the USA will separately work with Lebanon and a deal with Hezbollah. He's literally said Hezbollah. I'll put 2 O's. Hezbollah situation in an appropriate manner. Israel will not be bombing Lebanon any longer. They are prohibited from doing so by the USA. Enough is enough. Thank you, President DJT, Donald J. Trump. Finally, some condemnation for those strikes that actually jeopardized the deal that we had made with Iran. And then he said again, Iran has agreed to never close the Strait of Hormuz again. It will no longer be used as a weapon against the world. President Donald J. Trump. Okay.
That's not true.
That's not true, though.
They're gonna close it again after the ceasefire.
This is what Mohammed Gharibaf, the parliament speaker on X, his own X account, said in response to that tweet. Take a look at this. So he says, the president of the United States made 7 claims in 1 hour, all 7 of which were false. They did not win the war with these lies, and they will certainly not get anywhere with negotiations either. With the continuation of the blockade, the Strait of Hormuz will not remain open. Okay, so this is the issue here. If the U.S. continues to block these Iranian ports, which chokes their economy, they're suffering as a result, well, then they're not going to open the Strait of Hormuz. And if they do, they're going to limit the passages in which the Strait of Hormuz is operated from, and they're going to make sure they make money. They'll tow these ships.
Yep.
Okay, he continues on. He said, passage through the Strait of Hormuz will be conducted based on the designated route. That's what I just said. And with Iranian authorization. So they're going to control the strait full stop, and it's going to be an economic benefit for them. 5, whether the strait is open or closed and the regulations governing it will be determined by the field, not by social media. 6, media warfare and engineering public opinion are an important part of war, and the Iranian nation is not affected by these tricks. Read the real and accurate news of the negotiations in the recent interview of the foreign ministry spokesman. Okay, and then he links that down here. And Abbas Araghchi also said here, in line with the ceasefire in Lebanon, the passage for all commercial vessels through the Strait of Hormuz is declared completely open for the remaining period of ceasefire, which is about Wednesday of next week, on the coordinated routes as already announced
today. Today is the last day of the ceasefire. Is the last day the Strait of Hormuz is going to be open.
You know.
So yeah, after today, the Strait of Hormuz is going to close again. And the prices are going to rise up again. What are you guys?
This is the problem.
They're all going to rise up.
We are so happy. At least I say we. I'm talking about Trump. Is so happy that the Strait of Hormuz is now open. It's open for traffic, and we've been seeing that through the radar. And Fox News is raving about it. All the panicans have shut up, and you don't understand. Iran is controlling the strait now, and they're going to continue to control the strait, right? And that's because we are making maximalist demands that only point in the direction of a war restart. You know, our demands are obviously way too far. They're not going to give up the enriched uranium. They're not going to give up their missiles program. And the United States must have them fulfill those obligations if we are to walk away.
That's an accident.
Because if we don't, they're going to bolster those programs to the point where the next time we start a war, it'll be a lot more painful. And nuclear war may be in the conversation. So, you know, they're pretty much setting everything up and getting ready for a second stage of this war. That's what is evident to me at this point.
What would you tell someone who knows exactly what to do but can't make themselves do it?
That gap has a name.
Shut the fuck up, please. Jesus Christ.
It's balancing this fine line of maintaining peace in the region whilst giving Iran what they would want, at least for the short term. The thing is we may not care about it as a whole, but the entire region is subject to this devastation because Israel knows how to involve everybody. That's what they've done. We've got to figure out a way to disarm their ability to agitate and exacerbate the issue. And once we disarm them from having the leverage and getting every country militarily involved, then and only then can we guarantee those peace talks.
Like, people don't understand that if the Israelis fix the Palestine question, the entire Muslim world will recognize them. They don't understand, man. Making a Palestinian state has a lot of other significant benefits for them in the long term that they're just going to have to accept. Let's go. Let's have fun with this. I think if me and you went to Iran, we'd come back with a deal. We'd save this country.
Yeah, 1,000,000%.
What would be the deal parameters? Let's go through this. Let's have fun. Let's say me and you, we throw Wickoff and Jared Kushner out the White House. We're taking over. We're the diplomats now. We go to Iran. Fuck it. We go there, right? right? No fear. We go there, all right? Or to Pakistan, whatever. Pakistan's probably gonna smell, but whatever. We go there. What are we gonna do? What are we gonna say? We gotta save our country, bro. What are we gonna do?
Yeah. So I would say, first of all, the uranium enriching to 60%, I would make some sort of agreement where they keep it at 60%. They don't go any higher, and they promise to not make a bomb. And in return, we'd involve the UN, like this peace plan here that we had that hopefully is, I'm assuming it's true, is by Megatron on X. We also exchange some sort of guaranteed sanctions relief and a pact that we will not attack them again, so long as they don't go over the enrichment threshold that gets them closer to weapons grade, that being 90%. I wouldn't even want to deal with the uranium too intimately, just because of the fact that we've attacked them for 50 days. So I know a maximalist demand is not going to create peace. I'm going there for peace. The other thing that I would do is make them promise to something in regards to the safety of the Gulf countries, because I would want to install military operations back there again. That's huge, and I can't walk away from the peace table without knowing that I can plant my military bases back in the Gulf countries and guarantee IRGC missiles won't reign over them, so we can continue to make money on the petrodollar and have some sort of presence in the Middle East. In regards to everything else, I'm not sure. They would probably ask for sanctions relief. Maybe they would ask for reparations. Maybe I would do a certain duration of time where they can make money on the ships that are going through the Strait of Hormuz, and then that'll expire, and then they'd have control of the strait, but they're no longer allowed to tax the ships or make tolls like things were prior to the conflict. And I think that we would get it because we're not the Trump administration. I think that the Iranians are ready to talk, but they're not going to talk to somebody who's a part of the Trump campaign, because what did MAGA do when they came in 2016 and 2018? They tarnished the deal that gave them sanctions relief. So I would do something along those lines, and I would also make sure that the IAEA is involved in supervising their facilities and ensuring that they're not going over 60%. And then maybe in another 5 or 6 years, once the deal has reached that period peacefully, then we can make a little bit more of a maximum demand, entire or full sanctions relief. We can go to a full diplomatic relationship with Iran. Of course, this would prove difficult with right next door bombing the shit out of Lebanon or whatever. So the real thing would be getting a deal with Iran and then reprimanding Israel and stopping them from everything they're doing to agitate the IRGC in the region, because that's real the big issue that's been a struggle for every U.S. president to balance. What would you say?
No, I like some of your ideas. I like the uranium idea. I was gonna say the other option is they give us the uranium. In exchange, we give them full sanction relief. They give it to us, right? And then we have IAEA oversee their nuclear program. We let them enrich. We let them enrich, monitor it like the JCPOA, right? We let them have the Strait of Hormuz for maybe, let's say, a year, 2 years. Let them collect tolls. It is what it is. But we agree on some kind of fair price so people aren't getting destroyed, right? It's that way we can avoid paying them war reparations. Let the rest of the world pay them for it, right? Immediate diplomacy. We show good faith. We open up an Iranian embassy in the United States, and we open up a U.S. embassy in Iran, and we actually start like doing it right away to let them know we're serious. We're gonna build an Iranian embassy in Washington D.C., and we're gonna build an embassy here in Tehran. We're serious about diplomacy. We want to work. We're gonna take the sanctions off. We're gonna do business. Well, non-aggression, or I like your idea too, because they want congressional. They basically want congressional approval so that we can't attack them. I like that what you said too, where the other option is if they don't give us the uranium, fair, no problem. Don't give us the uranium, but if you guys are rich over 60%, the deal is null and void. We can attack you guys again. Which one do you want to do? I give them both options. You can give us the uranium right now, right? We give y'all full sanctions relief, or we can go ahead and get it where if you enrich at a certain level, then we reserve the right to attack you again. Which one, right? Yeah. I'm not even gonna with their ballistic missile program or the proxies. Honestly, it's not our problem.
It's off the table.
It's
off the table.
Yo,
you can't.
Hezbollah,
You can't. That's beyond the
Hamas,
pale.
Not our problem, bro. Not our problem. See, and diplomacy. Notice how easy diplomacy becomes once you don't care about it anymore. Like, yo, I don't give a
you, just you.
You're speaking facts. When you don't care about Israel and the diplomacy, immediately peace can be made.
We don't care about the proxies. We don't care. We're building an embassy here. You're going to build an embassy in the United States, okay? And then also, I agree with what you said, Riyadh. We need to maintain some military semblance in the Middle East because we cannot lose that. And we'll have to come up with some middle ground. Look, we're only going to be here in a defensive posture, not in an attack posture. We'll be open with you guys. We'll notify you guys. But if we need to attack another country, whatever, we're going to be working in hand. And in exchange, we're going to sell you guys some weapons.
Yeah. And the science of the uranium.
We'll give y'all niggas some F-35s. We'll give y'all some F-35s, beef up your Air Force a little bit, right? We're gonna give y'all some real boats, okay? But we need to maintain our bases here in the Middle East. We need to take care of our partners over here. You guys we're not gonna attack y'all. Okay, but we need to be able to stage here from a defensive position only. And then if we need to attack, we'll handle it. We got embassies now. We got diplomats. We can handle this. And then we can work. This is a starting point. Boom. Peace.
Exactly.
Immediately.
And then,
we're paying $1 for gas. Send me and my brother over there. We will fix this problem instantly.
And the science of the 60% and not going over it would be to demonstrate that I respect their ability of deterrence, which means inadvertently that I don't want to regime change you.
Yep.
Because if I don't mind you enriching that high, I know you're only enriching at 60 so you can deter a country from invading you and destroying everything and planting a new leader. That's the reason why you're doing it. So if I display for 5 or 6 or 10 years that I don't care about your 60% as long as you don't go over, and I don't attack you in that period, in the next coming decade, now I can ask you to go down. Now I can ask you to go down in 3.6, just enough for power plants, but not enough for anything that can destroy humans. That's where that conversation can go. And that's, I say it all the time, that's where the conversation was with Obama, but Trump destroyed all trust, and systematically he did it so that we can get into this war.
Yeah, because the JCPOA,
it's building that trust back up.
Because what Trump doesn't realize is that JCPOA would have allowed us to have a foundation of diplomacy to like eventually get to a point where it's like, all right, bro, y'all don't need this. You would get this, dude. Who knows how far we would have been able to go? Let the sanctions, whatever. We could have had them like a Gulf state, bro, where we will help you guys with protection, whatever. You guys are allies, whatever. And that would have been a fantastic
they could have done that. They could have done that
against the Chinese and the Russians.
Yep.
Like,
if we can get in there and maintain influence, that's huge. That's huge. That would guarantee we're going to be the same country that we are for the next 100, 200 years. The only issue, unfortunately, with all of these plans,
we secure a significant amount of energy at a great price. We're making China, we're cutting off China's ability to have influence in the region. We're hurting the Russians. Like, this is such an easy deal. But the problem is that of the diplomacy, because me and you would go in there. We don't care about the ballistic missiles. We don't care about the proxies. We don't care.
Yeah.
We're working with you guys. Israel's out the. I don't care about these. Okay, straight up, embassies both countries immediately. Diplomats being assigned. Okay, we're gonna lift the sanctions. Okay, we're gonna go ahead and give you guys a non-aggression thing contingent upon. I like your idea. You cannot enrich uranium past 60%. We're gonna sell you guys some military weapons in exchange. You guys are gonna let us have a defensive posture, military presence in the Middle East. Okay, and we'll start with 1 base, 2 bases, and then we'll build from there, and we'll build the trust, and we'll sell you on niggas some F-35s. Some people said in here, oh, Myron, selling F-35 is diabolical. They already shot one down. Shut up. Shut the f up. They already shot one down. They're literally about to get some Chinese, some fourth generation Russian fighter jets. Okay? The F-35 is no longer invincible. They already shot it down. Okay? Also, don't forget, when Americans sell F-35s, it's a nerfed version. Okay? When we sell to other people, it's a nerfed version. The Israelis have the closest one to the full on. We would sell them a nerfed version, obviously. But this is how you build trust, bro. You know what I mean? Like, you guys gotta understand, we've attacked these twice in the middle of negotiations. We gotta be all in on this one. Building embassies, getting diplomats assigned. We're lit the sanctions. We're doing business with y'all. You guys can go ahead and
yeah, America, put them in the negotiation room, bro. They will do more than all of you. Bro, it's just straight simple, direct and simple. There you go. This. Okay, you can negotiate, so we can have some diplomacy here. No more fighting, no more destruction, no more death. There you go, done.
Like, bro, I don't care,
bro.
right? Just let's do a reasonable price.
Just straightforward towards the objectives, the things we're talking about, and what we need to agree upon, so we cannot kill each other, continue killing each other. Bro, there you go. Just straightforward.
So the international community doesn't get destroyed because we're not going to pay the reparations for that, right? You guys could go ahead and tax these a little bit, and that's it. And boom, we put the olive branch. That's it. Because as soon as we distance ourselves, we don't with the Israelis no more.
Yeah, and that's there's reality in those talks. There's reality in that kind of deal. It just won't happen with this administration.
What do you think, Riyad? Do you think they would? I think they'd accept that deal, bro.
If we offered any deal.
Diplomacy immediately. We're building embassies. We got a strategic partnership, right? Like, and then we promise them no aggression with a congressional approval, and then just contingent upon them not having enriching past 60%, and then we bring the IAEA in, bro. It's a win-win for everybody. It's a win-win.
As long as the Iranians are met with a plan that does not move the uranium, that does not have to do with the missiles or the proxies, and guarantees safety moving forward, they will 100% sign off on that. That's all they want. That's all Abbas Araghchi and Mohammad Ghalibaf have expressed. The delegation being the parliament parliament speaker and then the foreign minister. So
and I think,
that's all those guys really want.
We sell them some weapons, they'll let us maintain bases in the Middle East. I think we can get them to come to the middle ground.
Yeah.
With we need to maintain, because that's going to protect our petrodollar, right? Because then we got to maintain the protection in the Middle East, and then we got to rebuild that connection with the Gulf states, right?
100%.
And then we say, look, we're gonna work, we're gonna we're all gonna do business together, but we need to maintain a defensive posture here. You guys aren't who we're targeting. It's the other potential people that it is, and we'll maintain bases here from a defensive posture, and then we just build from there. You know what I mean? The deal goes good for a year, and they can start making money, etc. We can even do sanctions from a portion of sanction relief, right? Hey, after 1 year, we just get more and more.
Gradual.
We do a gradual sanction relief, right? And then I think we can maintain a basis there. It's probably going to be from a defensive posture only.
Bro, somehow an ISIS, an ex-ISIS agent,
I really do.
that is now a podcaster / YouTuber / streamer, and a streamer somehow managed to actually have a better deal off with another country. Honestly, this sounds more logical and more, I wouldn't say acceptable, because we're never going to know if that's going to be acceptable or not. But it sounds a better deal overall than what America's trying to propose in the middle of the fucking war. It's just stupid.
And like, bro, and that's
it's actually fucking stupid.
Me and you could go to Iran probably and get a deal done better than Wickoff and Jared Kushner. That's sad.
Yeah.
That is so.
Here's one thing I'll say. To play devil's advocate. That is all contingent upon controlling it. Because here's the thing. It is going to say that's not happening because of the proxies, as well as the fact that they can continuously fight the proxies and charge up Iran again for a full-fledged regional war.
You know what the beauty is? The proxies and the ballistic missiles don't hurt us.
Yeah, they hurt us.
They don't affect us whatsoever in the U.S. But sorry, keep going.
No, yeah, absolutely. But the problem is if it gets involved, well, then they are guaranteed to be destroyed if we're not helping them, right? So it's balancing this fine line of maintaining peace in the region whilst giving Iran what they would want, at least for the short term. And the thing is okay, we may not care about it as a whole, but the entire region is subject to this devastation because knows how to involve everybody. That's what they've done, so we've got to figure out a way to disarm their ability to agitate and exacerbate the issue. And once we disarm them from having the leverage and getting every country militarily involved and starting a regional conflict, because they have the power to do that, Marco Rubio admitted it, then and only then can we guarantee those peace talks actually have some sort of long
you want to start
in the region.
You want to start at the beginning. Okay, so then if we're gonna really do this, we got to go all the way.
Get Netanyahu out.
Okay,
get Netanyahu out. Focus
on
removing him from power. Get somebody else in power who is not interested in undermining and destroying every other country around them. And then from there, they can have their state. Of course, we're going to have to navigate the situation of the two-state, what's going on with the West Bank, what's going on with Gaza, what's going on with all these territories. What are you doing with southern Lebanon?
You know what the easiest thing is for this? Because all of these problems, like no one wants to admit this, but all of these problems in the Middle East literally stem from the Palestine question. And I agree with you. We need to get Netanyahu in.
They do.
Because we need to get Netanyahu out because Netanyahu is prolonging the war so that he can stay in power so he doesn't have to face his corruption case. So we got to get someone in that doesn't have charges hanging over his head. You know what? Give that pardon. Who cares? Yo, get out of here. You get a pardon. I don't care. Get out of here. Let's put somebody else in. That person that we put in, this is how this is going to go. You're going to make a one-state solution. And if you don't make a one-state solution, we are not going to give you aid anymore and support you. And the Palestinians are probably going to overrun you and destroy you. Which one do you want to do? And then that's it. You're going to do a one-state solution. You're going to go ahead and you're going to recognize every single Palestinian as an Israeli. They're going to have full citizenship. They're going to have full rights. And that's how this goes. Sorry, bro. No more the state. It's going to be, which has Muslims, Christians, and living in peace. That's the only way. Otherwise, you can either have it this way or we pull our aid, we no longer support you, and then you guys can fend for yourself. They don't have a choice. The reason why the Israelis never want to negotiate and deal with the Palestine question is because we never forced them to. And once we force them to, and we get a one-state solution, because we know we're not going to get a two-state, let's be honest. We're not going to get a two-state because they will never accept.
It's impossible because of Jerusalem.
Exactly. So we make it a one-state. No more of these borders. We establish real borders. Okay. We could probably take the Golan Heights, right? Syria, I don't think we'll care. We'll take the Golan Heights. Let them go. Gaza, West Bank, all that. It's all going to be one country, okay? One state solution, everyone gets citizenship. Palestinian question answered. Now the Palestinian question is answered, we don't need acts of resistance anymore. Now we can go ahead and deal with Iran. All right, Iran, you can go ahead and maintain your proxies. Not really needed anymore because Israel's not going to be crazy, but it's fine. You can maintain them. And your ballistic missile program, we don't give a fuck. Okay, just don't make sure that if they have the ability to hit the United States, then we got problems. They better never hit 10,000 kilometers or more. Then we're going to come after you. So your uranium, 60%,
middle range only.
Exactly. You can defend yourself in the region. 60% or less. Your ballistic missiles, which you don't have the capability of, can be intercontinental. No 10,000 kilometers or more. And then we'll make you guys full-fledged partners. We'll do business with y'all. We answer the Palestinian question, so you don't need to use your ballistic missiles anymore, and you don't need the proxies. Boom.
That would work.
Yo,
that would work. You just would have to get Netanyahu and that whole Netanyahu entourage out, all of them.
Yep. And we would have
every
a deal.
Single one.
Bro, we would have a deal. Like, I mean, look, people might say, oh, well, that sounds too easy. It is that easy. It's really not that hard.
Yeah,
once you have balls and can stand up to Israelis and tell them this is what's going to happen, you're going to have a one-state solution, or else we're going to just let the Arabs run you over. They're going to have to come to the table and negotiate. Okay.
JFK did.
Because here's the biggest fear and I'll tell you what let me be a Zionist for a second. Let me be an Israeli. Their biggest fear is they don't want the Palestinians, because the Palestinians outbreed them, to have the majority and then put Palestinians in power and then get them out of there. That's their biggest fear. So we would have to put in some type of play where there has to be a minimum amount of representation in the government, no matter how much Palestinians there are. We would have to safeguard something for them, because that's their biggest fear. That's like one of the chief reasons why they will not recognize the Palestinians, because there's more Palestinians than Israeli and they want to say fine, no problem. We'll let you guys maintain 50% of the government. No matter how many Palestinians there are, we will let you guys maintain 50% of the government. That's the best I could do, nigga. So you guys might be 20% of the population, but we'll let you have 50% of the government, maybe even 51%. So you can say they're a Jew state. How about that one? Okay? So you can still feel good. You got the 1% majority. And that's it. Palestine question answered. Middle East saved. Then we could go ahead and deal with the Iranians.
Yeah, that's the thing. Deal with the Iranians is easy, but you've always got in the middle able to agitate it. So that would be really my first concern, to be honest. But you get Netanyahu out, you get Gvir out, you get all these guys out. There's a real chance there.
Yeah.
You know, there's a real potentiality. And the leader of the United States has to have enough balls to say, no more aid unless you listen. And of course, like we know, that's what John F. Kennedy did.
Yep.
No more money unless you actually listen to us. And that's what should have been the MO from the beginning.
And you know what's crazy, Rod? How much time did we spend on this segment? Like 20 minutes? Bro, we just literally figured out how to fix the Middle East.
Yeah, that easy.
You have to start
People try to make it more
Palestine.
complex than it is. Yeah.
You have to start
because
with
that's where all the issues stem from. That's why the entire Arab world hates them, is because of Palestine.
Yeah.
That's what started everything.
I think the one state is the best solution. And I think and I just thought about that on the fly, bro. Yeah, we just give these 51% representation in the government, no matter how much their population is. Even if they're a minority, we give them 50%, because that's an enormous amount of power. So
yeah,
we give them no matter their representation. So their biggest fear of being like toppled politically is will never happen. You will always have 50 to 51% representation. It'll always be a state, and you guys just got to live in harmony, like you guys did to the Ottoman Empire. Don't give me this about Muslims and can't live together. You guys did it for thousands of years. Okay, I don't want to hear that. So, and that's it. That's literally what it is. Everyone's an Israeli. Well, no, and here's the thing. You'll fix your reputation. Countries will recognize you. Your government will be fixed. Like, people don't understand that if the Israelis fix the Palestine question, the entire Muslim world will recognize them.
Yeah.
Now you can do business. North Korea will recognize you. Nigga, like, what are you doing? Like, you know, you could be friends with Kim Jong-un now, right? You could be Rocket Man. So, like, they don't understand, man, that like making a Palestinian state has a lot of other significant benefits for them in the long term that they're just gonna have to accept. And then the biggest thing, because every Israeli's biggest fear is security. Bro, now you're secure. You're not going to be attacked by your neighbors. You have become a Muslim country. Right? You have become, well, not a Muslim majority, but you have basically become a
the democracy you claim to be.
You've become the democracy that you guys claim to be, with an enormous amount of representation despite your small population size. The rest of the Middle East is going to recognize you and do business with you. Like, it's a win-win for everybody, and nobody's going to hate y'all no more. Like Israelis can travel safely everywhere. You guys can go to Saudi Arabia now. You guys can go to Iran. Like, Yeah, like
It all does stem from that one issue.
True,
Palestine
that is
issue.
true. That is
Once
true.
you solve that, I know it's hard to solve, but if you once you solve it, that's it. There's like an echo effect. There really is this kind of like ripple effect where there's no need for this violence or resistance anymore. Like everybody's got their rights and their sovereignty now. That would be the biggest thing. No open air prison, no occupation, no violent occupation, no provocative actions with the Masjid al-Aqsa. Like that would guarantee some sort of coexistence and sanctity in the region for sure. For sure.
Hello. I'm Robin.
What the fuck? But yeah, like, they are right. It's that simple. Now on to the last part of the stream, guys. Let's go.
Weeks, we've been seeing several different developments, a lot of changes. We had the ceasefire, which started around April 7th. This was from Trump's previous tweet at the end of March, and where he said, we have like 7 or 8 more days. He kept extending the deadline, and then we got to April 7th and we had a legitimate ceasefire. After that, of course, the U.S. delegation and Iranian delegation met for peace talks, you know, to actually conclude everything and get us on a board to peace. As you guys know, there has been this ongoing conflict in the Strait of Hormuz primarily, and that's what's been really affecting the United States as well, economically, as well as the entire world in the global oil market. So, you know, everything has kind of been jumping back and forth, but the real issue in kind of putting the stake in everything is the fact that Donald Trump has been just lying. He's been lying on Truth Social.
Very bad.
The Parliament
Just
Speaker
lying
of
a
Iran,
lot.
Mohammad Ghalibaf, had actually reprimanded Donald Trump for lying on 7 different points. And he said that every single thing was not true and that the Iranians were not even speaking with Donald Trump. Of course, you know this if you've been watching the show. We've been having to refute Donald Trump, not because we're attacking Trump, but because of the fact that we're actually trying to get the news out, the right news out. And so it's been a little bit difficult, or proven difficult, for us to actually discern what's going on. And if you've been paying attention to the news, it's probably been hard for you at home to really figure out what's going on. And that's all, of course, intentional. That's a part of the plan. For better or worse, I guess you can make that conclusion yourself at the end of the stream, because we're going to see what just happened in the last 12 hours, which is kind of like the biggest thing that's happened ever since the ceasefire started, aside from the bombing in Lebanon. But hopefully that's permanently diffused, because Israel and Lebanon came to, and I quote with heavy quotations here, ceasefire. So they came to some sort of peace plan.
It actually came to a ceasefire.
However, it seems like Israel's still bombing certain provinces and municipalities in southern Lebanon, as well as the...
How can they say they had a ceasefire, but Israel continues to bomb them? If they continue to bomb, it means there's no ceasefire. Like, what? That's what I mean, bro. Israel, like, literally, Israel is really the problem in general. Like, bro, come on. The Jews, come on, bro. Everyone wants peace. Why do you want war? Like, it makes no sense.
In fact, did you see Apple Maps took out the village names in South Lebanon? Really scary and concerning. So, lots of things there. But today, and prior, just last Friday, we had the Strait of Hormuz allegedly open. Abbas Araghchi took to Twitter and he said the Strait of Hormuz is now open for safe passage. Now, whether the IRGC was making money on tolls on those ships...
They even said it was going to stay open until the end of the ceasefire, which is today. Today is the last day of the ceasefire. So prepare yourself, guys. The prices are going to rise up again when it comes to the oil, the food, everything. Everything is going to rise up again. Just to let you guys know.
Is up for debate. U.S. officials were saying they weren't. The IRGC and Iranian news outlets were saying they were. Of course, we know in the fog of war, we have to take everything with a grain of salt. But likely they probably were making some sort of economic benefit, or it was lucrative for them to keep the strait open and make some money. And so, you know, that's what was happening. But of course, Donald Trump, and this is the issue here, you got to pay attention. Donald Trump imposed a blockade on Iranian ports. When Donald Trump did this, he kind of, I would imagine, wanted to implement the fact that the United States is still in control. Of course, with Iran seizing the Strait of Hormuz, which, by the way, is their territory, it's their water, they really grabbed the United States in a difficult position, really by the balls, no homo. And where now we had no choice but to either stop this war or finish it, right? And finishing it probably meant a long-winded conflict, one that would last another few months, God knows, even a year or so. And so, of course, Donald Trump looks like the losing position here. All of the EU countries have condemned this war, condemned our initial attack with Israel coinciding with us on February 28th. and all of the NATO nations have been reluctant to actually join the war, in which Donald Trump has not been shy to condemn them of on Truth Social. He's called them paper tigers. He said that they're useless. He even considered pulling out at one point. He said, we're helping Ukraine for no reason. What are we getting from that? So Donald Trump has been voicing all of his concerns and his dissatisfaction with the entire world because
get the fuck out. At least we don't have dumbasses making dumb decisions like all of you are doing.
In a difficult situation, which is the fact that Iran is able to put pressure on the global oil market. So what does Donald Trump do while the ceasefire is going on? Mind you, while the ceasefire was going on, he blocks Iranian ports. Now, along the entire coast of Iran are these ports that are responsible for goods, cargo, everything else that helps, of course, the country run, as well as the fact that they can export ships from these ports to make money, like any other country in the world. The United States imposed a naval blockade on these ports just a few days ago, Monday, to be specific, and Donald Trump announced that, CENTCOM announced it, and it started at 10 a.m. Monday, if my memory serves me correctly. In response to this, of course, Mohammed Ghalibaf, in his 7-point refutation of Donald Trump's Truth Social frenzy, said on X that we will not open up the Strait of Hormuz until Donald Trump opens up our Iranian ports. Because, of course, that's only fair. If we can't make any money using our assets or receive any shipments coming in like imports, well, then why are we going to open up the Strait of Hormuz so the United States can feel some pressure relief and potentially even escalate this war farther while we don't have any leverage in our corner at that same time? So the Strait of Hormuz is closed again. And there were some reports that the IRGC had fired bullets over to ships that were passing through without either paying the tolls or ships that were passing through overall. The IRGC had also set up certain passageways for these ships to pass through. And so they were really just in full control of the strait. Even if it was open, they were making money on it or they were in control. They made sure the United States never really had the full say in the situation. Of course, this is one of the desperate tactics that they had to resort to because of the fact that they are outmatched militarily by a long shot. Of course, we all know that they've been destroyed militarily. Tehran has felt the damage as well as other provinces, Isfahan, Natanz, Fordo, so on and so forth. And so it would only make sense for them to not only attack U.S. bases in these Gulf countries, which
majority of guys who are unaware of this formula and do not use this formula, unfortunately,
we don't care. Go back to kitchen.
Have now made them lose a lot of money, as well as the fact that they can't even push their oil through the Strait of Hormuz. But it also makes sense that they would use the Strait of Hormuz to their advantage as well by blocking it entirely. So Donald Trump imposes this blockade. He wants to show that the United States still has quote-unquote escalation dominance, in which we actually don't. We kind of lost that ability as well in this war. And what does Iran do in response? They ignore it. So today, an Iranian cargo ship by the name of Tuska, that's the name that it goes by, was shot, at least specifically in the engine room, by a USS naval ship. And in firing and destroying the ship, or at least destroying the engine room, eventually we seized the ship. Donald Trump spoke about it on Truth Social, of course, as he always does. And I have a New York Times article just to give you guys a nice little rundown of everything that's happened since the last time I went live and reported on this. And so now this is potentially the first step of what is going to be a second stage to this war. Everybody like Suleiman and others on X have been predicting this war will restart. And effectively, the chances of that have increased significantly because the United States just struck an Iranian cargo ship. Apparently, troops went on board and everything like that. And I'll read Trump's Truth Social post, which is a bit funny, and then we'll see where everything goes from here. But now we're kind of in a sensitive stage because Iran is going to respond, and they already have. There have been drone strikes allegedly on U.S. vessels inside of the Strait of Hormuz or the Persian Gulf as a whole. I'm not really sure as to all the intricate details because
that was stupid to do that. That was very fucking stupid to do that, bro.
It seems like the sources that have always been congruent with mainstream media just a couple days later.
Why would you ever do that?
We'll see what happens, but it seems like Iran has already responded, and they're going to continue to respond because of the blockade on their ports. And this is what the parliament speaker, Mohammed Ghalibaf, said in the beginning. He said, if we don't gain access to those ports, well, then why would we open up the Strait of Hormuz? You know, it's an even exchange. Now, this is the problem. Donald Trump is in an interesting position right now, and I'll say this before I read the article. He has to stop this war, but at the same time, he has to make it look like he still has the upper hand, or he's still the one in power.
But it doesn't know how,
for him, what would be a better decision than just stopping the war overall, which, by the way, that's the best decision, how can I maintain the power dominance, the optic look of the United States being the strongest country in the world by ending this war without making it look like we were defeated strategically? Well, I'll impose a blockade on their ports, and then that will last until a ceasefire is agreed upon. And that's what he had said. That's what was reported in the news, that we're going to impose this blockade before the ceasefire. The problem with this is imposing that blockade on Iranian ports really made the ceasefire difficult. Do you want to know why? Because today, as I'm speaking now, or really earlier, because Pakistan is about 7 or 8 hours ahead of us,
Oh, true,
there was
yeah,
supposed
yeah.
to be peace talks with the same U.S. delegation that had peace talks earlier this month. Iran rejected these peace talks, and it seems like they never really entirely agreed for a second stage, but they rejected these peace talks likely because of the fact that we are blocking their ports. And so in response, they blocked the Strait of Hormuz. So we're not even in a position to be having any sort of peace talks. We're not even in a position to further this ceasefire to a permanent peace. And the reason for that is because Trump escalated in a manner that quite literally was not necessary. Abbas Araghchi opened up the strait.
Shit, bro.
Whether the Iranians were making money on those ships or not is up for debate. But even then, should you had those peace talks, or
Why
if
does
you
he
had
always
those peace
those
talks,
dumb
maybe that
fucking-
could have been something that J.D.
He's
Vance
so
or
dumb, he's
Jared
so
Kushner, Stephen
dumb,
Witkoff,
bro.
the entire Middle Eastern envoy, could have spoke to the Iranians about and said, this is what we need to do with the Strait of Hormuz, and we would have had so much more of a right to actually impose some rules or some regulations on their water, their body of water, if we were not blocking their ports. So
stupid.
he has
They
to
were so
maintain,
stupid.
and I mean Donald Trump really, has to maintain this look of power while simultaneously still, quote unquote, controlling the situation and looking like we're winning, and also trying to reach a peace deal. You cannot do all of those things at the same time.
Yep.
And
That's the thing.
whether you say it's, talks in bad faith or whatever, I don't think so. I think the United States really does want peace. I just think it's very difficult for the United States to actually reach peace if
Reach
Donald Trump
peace,
wants to
yeah.
look like he has the upper hand. And that's because
True.
he just doesn't. And there's no point in lying. There's no point in coping. There's no point in acting like we have the upper hand. We don't, and that's totally fine. Look, militarily, we destroyed them. Tons of missile launchers have been destroyed. And a lot of their military infrastructure, their Navy, their Air Force, we do have those bragging rights. And so what would make the most sense is saying, hey, we set their nuclear program back a few years, especially with Operation Midnight Hammer, or many months. And so now we've achieved some of our goals, at least limiting their ability to enrich uranium, come to a big dirty bomb as soon as possible, even though they really never intended
They
to. The
never
whole point of
intended
them
to.
hedging a bomb was to scare us away from attacking. That didn't work, so now they're actually probably going to make a bomb. But that's a whole conversation for another time. That's really in and of itself a whole different issue that I spoke about, I think 2 days ago or a couple streams ago. But, Donald Trump has to kind of balance being a loser and also ending the war without looking like a loser. And at the cost of course, his look and his power structure and the way he's perceived, he has pretty much undermined all diplomacy to look like the stronger guy. That's the issue here, and that's what's going on. And if you've been
Oh, yeah, I just remembered. Didn't he say he wouldn't be remembered in the White House? I mean, you're gonna be remembered now by being an idiot and going to war with Iran for no fucking reason.
paying attention, that's what he's been doing the entire time.
Like,
He
no
has
one
to
cares about you,
really
the
make
good
it look
things you
like
did before
things
now.
are going the way they are, and that the Iranian
Yeah, bro.
delegation is begging for a ceasefire. They're begging for peace talks. But of course, all of the official statements from the Iranian parliament and their foreign minister of affairs, they're saying that we're not actually desperate for a ceasefire. We're not
Yep.
desperate for peace. We will love peace and we will come to the table about peace so long as the stipulations in that peace plan actually make sense for us. And so for this war to end now, the United States has forfeited all of its right for good talk, or good faith talk, sorry.
True,
And
true.
so now for this to end, the Iranians are going to have to get a wish list. They're going to have to get this dream list of stipulations that warrant this conflict actually over and allow them to move on from this conflict without being worried or concerned that the United States or Israel is going to stab them in the back again. And so we can't just make maximalist demands. We're going to have to pull back. And there has been this alleged, supposed kind of set of plans that we are going to propose to the Iranians in this second round of talks that did not happen today
Didn't
because
happen.
of Trump's poor actions in imposing blockades on the
Yep.
ports. But even if we do come to the table diplomatically and talk to the Iranians, the stipulations that we're going to have to propose or offer to them are going to be even less extreme for us and more extreme for them, in the fact that we're going to serve their interests more and more and more incrementally until the point where we're really just doing this for no reason, and we started this war for no reason. And of course, the United States is going to come to that realization. We're going to realize, hey, we have now had 2 rounds, 3 rounds, 4 rounds of peace talks. Each and every time we've escalated the situation to undermine diplomacy. So
Yep.
if we make a maximalist demand, the likelihood of it actually being accepted from the Iranian delegation lessens
It's
each and
very
every
low.
time we have
It's
these
very
talks. And
low, yeah.
how much more of the snowball effect can we afford until we make the decision that we're just going to have to start a full-on invasion again, right? Or a full-on ground on boots on ground situation, whatever it may be,
True.
we may have to restart this war in a way that's a little bit more extreme than we did initially. And that's because the air campaign, it works to some degree, but it's not actually going to achieve our goals. Our goals in this war were, of course, seizing the enriched uranium or relocating it, getting the IAEA involved, destroying or nullifying their ballistic missiles program by limiting the distance that they can travel as far as the eye can see, as well as everything else like the proxy network, Hezbollah in southern Lebanon. And these are all things that Iran is likely not going to come to the table about, especially the missiles. The nuclear enrichment is something they're willing to talk about, but the more we exacerbate the issue, the more we try and finagle in the Strait of Hormuz, which is something they obviously have had control of, well then the less the likelihood is that we'll actually get anything we want out of these peace talks. We're destroying our own potentiality at reaching our own goals by continuously stabbing them in the back in the midst of this ceasefire. And of course, this all stems from, like I said, Donald Trump wanting to look like he has the upper position. And so JD Vance is not even benefiting from this at all. And there were some reports earlier from a White House correspondent, I forget her name, last name is Kremlin. She was saying on X that Donald Trump had said that JD Vance is not going to travel to Pakistan for security reasons. And then she retracted that statement and said 2 White House officials actually said JD Vance is going. So there was at one point earlier today a little bit of...
Have you fallen victim to scammers? We can help you get your money back. Have you been the victim?
Confusion or mixing and matching as to who's actually going to Islamabad for the second round of peace talks. And could this be a situation, and this is of course speculative, where JD Vance is now upset or frustrated with the president's military decision because of the fact that that's actually destroying JD Vance's ability to broker a peace deal? Certainly. And if you're JD Vance right now, you'd have to imagine, or you'd have to really be upset. Think about it, put yourself in his shoes. He wants to be president in 2028. At least that's what he's obviously campaigned for. He's hinted at. And
wait, what? I mean, what? I thought people can only be president twice, so he wants to be president again? But I don't... He's... Wait, what? Maybe it's 2 years in a row. Maybe it's 4 years in a row that he... No, 4 years in a row. What the fuck? Maybe it's 8 years in a row. Maybe he cannot do that. Maybe he can do one time 4 years. Another time he doesn't. Another time 4 years. Okay. Maybe that.
What's the biggest bragging right he can take from this whole conflict is that, of course, he ended it. That would be a huge piece of leverage for him on the debate stage. That would be a huge talking point for him anytime he's having a rally or at any point in his presidential campaign. That'd be huge, you know, and a lot of people would endorse him because of the fact that he ended this senseless war in the Middle East and he stopped Donald Trump from, quote unquote, destroying the global oil market, whatever else he could say, because there's many ways you can weaponize this for your own campaign. That's all being destroyed because he can't even make it to Pakistan to have these talks because Iran is saying, no, you have to control the president. The president is blocking our ports, and we told him that if we come to an agreement on these peace talks, we will at least make the Strait of Hormuz fully open again. Now, who controls it? That's a different conversation, of course, but we will open it entirely so that Asia and Europe and these other countries don't suffer. Just today, the Netherlands said that they're actually facing now an oil crisis or an energy crisis, and they're declaring or close to declaring a state of emergency. And that's because of the fact that, of course, these European countries rely heavily on these Gulf countries for the oil first. I believe it's Asia first, and then actually after that, it'd be the European countries. And you know, what does this mean for our relations with the Gulf countries? Of course, they rely on our dollar. They propel our dollar by selling that oil. Is that going to be the same after this?
No.
And, you know, the UAE is having an emergency situation with the dollar as well right now. And so it's just this whole situation where everybody's suffering. And Iran knows this. And so to them, the situation is, how long can we make the United States suffer without direct warfare? Because at least during the war, we can strike Iran. At least during the war, we can try and seize the uranium. We could try different things with our advanced military, with our technology. But during this ceasefire, then we're nerfed. We actually don't have all the options on the table to try and win militarily. We tried with the CIA operation, that whole F-15 that was shot out of the sky. John Ratcliffe reporting to the White House. That seemed to not work. That was probably a door opening for a boots on ground invasion or seizing uranium, with the whole scientist ID being on the ground. My brother went into great detail about that on his video in his YouTube channel, so go check that out if you haven't already. He broke it down very well. But right now, the United States is nullified in terms of our capability because of the ceasefire. Iran is not. because Iran still controls the strait. So Iran has their biggest weapon right now. They're still using it. We don't. And so to me, of course, the ceasefire ends in 2 days on the 22nd officially. But to me, it may not even get there. Maybe we'll just resume this war. What's the point of even honoring that date or that deadline if Iran has rejected the peace talk? They have not showed up to Pakistan. They have not sent their delegation. And their demands still lie in the realm of maximal. So it's a situation where we actually had a chance to kind of just end this.
They had a chance to stop.
Yeah,
Yeah, they had a chance to.
It seems like we are reaching our second win here, and the war will unfortunately restart. That's what I'm seeing.
Probably.
Here's the latest. A U.S. Navy destroyer on Sunday attacked and seized an Iranian cargo ship that defied an American blockade.
This was
of Iran's
stupid
ports.
to do.
President Trump
In the
said,
middle of
posting a
negotiating.
fresh
In the
threat to
middle
the
of the
fragile
day, they
ceasefire
could have
that is
negotiated.
set to expire
They
this
know
week.
they're
That's
not
on the
negotiating
22nd
because
or
of
the
what
21st.
happened.
I've been seeing 2 dates. Mr. Trump announced the attack hours after a White House official said the U.S. was dispatching a high-level delegation, including Vice President J.D. Vance, to peace talks in Pakistan, even as Iranian state media said Tehran had not yet agreed to a meeting. And again, this is something we constantly do. We say that something's going to happen. We say that something's in the works or in motion, and then Iran is like, we didn't agree to anything. We haven't even spoke to anyone. This continues on to say, the guided missile destroyer USS Spruance fired on the cargo vessel in the Gulf of Oman. Mr. Trump said on Truth Social.
So not only they lied, they made a stupid fucking. They made something stupid, which is seize a cargo.
Blowing a hole in its engine room
It's
before
stupid.
Marines took possession of the vessel. The president said the ship was under U.S. sanctions because of, quote, history of illegal activity, end quote, and that the U.S. forces were seeing what was on board. Mr. Trump did not say whether there had been any casualties. Iran semi-official Mehr news agency reported that the U.S. forces had fired on Iranian merchant vessel, but said naval units from Iran's Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps had forced the Americans to retreat. The attack occurred in the Gulf of Oman, south of the Strait of Hormuz, the economically vital waterway that has become a flashpoint in negotiations. Iran imposed a blockade on the channel itself, through which roughly 20% of the world's oil normally travels, and the U.S. countered by blocking traffic to Iranian ports. Stupid idea. On Saturday, Iran attacked 2 Indian vessels attempting a transit, acts Mr. Trump described earlier on Sunday as a, quote, total violation of our ceasefire. The fate of the strait is top of mind for American negotiators who Mr. Trump said would travel to Islamabad, the Pakistani capital, this week for talks. That was supposed to be today, of course. The stakes for the negotiations, should they happen, are high. Failure would risk reigniting the fighting and extending the global economic upheaval wrought by the war. And of course, these talks have, for all intents and purposes, failed because they have not happened today. A White House official said Mr. Vance was expected to lead a U.S. delegation accompanied by the top Trump aides Stephen Witkoff and Jared Kushner. The negotiations would be the second meeting of high-level officials since the ceasefire went into effect on April 8th. The ceasefire is expected to expire on April 22nd, and the rhetoric is intensifying as the deadline approaches. Mr. Trump on Sunday renewed threats against Iran's civilian infrastructure if the strait is not reopened and an extension of the ceasefire is not reached. Quote, we're offering a very fair and reasonable deal. And
Yeah, there's
Mr.
no
Trump wrote on
reasonable
social
at all.
media. And guys, don't worry, I'm going to go through all the Truth Social posts where he went into
Not
the
reasonable
second
at
threat
all,
on the
bro.
power
What do you
plants and
want
everything
about?
else like that. I hope they take it, because if they don't, the United States is going to knock out every single power plant and every single bridge in Iran, Trump said. The last round of negotiations led last weekend by Mr. Vance in Islamabad ended without a breakthrough. The meeting had been the highest level encounter between Iranian and American leaders in decades. So here's a Truth Social post. So this is from, I'll read the whole gonna blow up the power plant threat in a moment, but this is a little bit more fresh or relevant in regards to the cargo ship. Trump says on Truth Social, today an Iranian flag cargo ship named Tuska, nearly 900 feet long and weighing almost as much as an aircraft carrier. Of course, he's trying to make the situation sound more dangerous than it actually was. Tried to get past our naval blockade, and it did not go well for them. The U.S. Navy guided missile destroyer USS Spruance intercepted the Tuska in the Gulf of Oman and gave them fair warning to stop. The Iranian crew refused to listen, so our Navy ship stopped them right in their tracks by blowing a hole in the engine room. Right now, U.S. Marines have custody of the vessel. The Tuska is under U.S. Treasury sanctions because of their prior history and illegal activity, or of illegal activity, sorry. We have full custody of the ship, and we are seeing what's on board, President Donald J. Trump. Now, there's a video, actually, released by the Pentagon of this entire issue.
Of course.
Us warning and then eventually striking the ship, and it's right
Of
here.
course.
So let's take a look.
Of course. When they do something good for their side, something good for this side, of course they're gonna show it. The fucking course move.
Motor Vessel Tosca. Motor Vessel Tosca. Vacate your engine room. Vacate your engine room. We're prepared to subject you to disabling fire.
And I believe those are actually warning shots. Those aren't the actual shots that delivered the strike, if I'm not mistaken. And that was the fate of the Tosca ship. So it says here, CENTCOM released footage showing the U.S. Navy firing warning shots at the Iranian commercial vessel Tosca in the Gulf of Oman. The vessel was later seized by the United States. So again, that's going over everything I just explained to you guys, kind of airing my frustration because of how unnecessary it was. But here
because of them doing this, there's no negotiation.
From Donald Trump, this was earlier this morning, and it was in response to Iran firing bullets at these Indian vessels, likely because they were not obeying orders to actually go through the passageways designated for oil tankers or oil vessels, or maybe they weren't paying. I don't know what the details are there, and I tried to figure it out, but there's a bunch of blurred lines, gray area, because I'm not really too confident in Iranian media reports. Of course, they're going to try to bolster up their position and make bold claims, but it seems like they fired on that ship, and this was Trump's response to it. So you can read it, and again, Donald Trump, never shy to type up a mouthful, but we'll read it through. So Trump says on Truth Social at 8 a.m. this morning, Iran decided to fire bullets yesterday in the Strait of Hormuz, a total violation of our ceasefire agreement. Many of them were aimed at a French ship and a freighter from the United Kingdom. That wasn't nice, was it? Okay. And obviously this is in response to either those ships not listening to the Iranian-controlled strait or in response to the U.S. blockade. I'm not defending it, maybe a bad idea from Iran, but this shows that the United States doesn't actually have any escalation dominance that we can exercise. My representatives are going to Islamabad, Pakistan. They will be there tomorrow evening. Didn't seem like that happened. For negotiations, Iran recently announced that they were closing the strait, which is strange because of our blockade. But because our blockade has already closed it, they're helping us without knowing, and they are the ones that lose with the closed passage. We're not blocking the Strait of Hormuz. They are. $500 million a day. The United States loses nothing. In fact, many ships are headed right now to the U.S., Texas, Louisiana, and Alaska to load up. Compliments of the IRGC, always wanting to be the tough guy. I debunked that yesterday as to how that's not going to be good for the United States long term. Or 2 days ago, Friday. We're offering a very fair and reasonable deal, and I hope they take it, because if they don't, the United States is going to knock out every single power plant and every single bridge in Iran. No more Mr. Nice Guy. They'll come down fast and they'll come down easy, and if they don't take the deal, it will be my honor to do what has to be done, which should have been done to Iran by other presidents for the last 47 years. It's time for the Iran killing machine to end. President Donald J. Trump. Can you take him serious at this point?
If he does this shit, he's stupid.
I can't even take him serious.
If he does that, he's fucking
his response. And of course, that's his response on Truth Social, but what's our actual physical response? At this point, Iran controls the strait, and now, remember,
if he does that, that's stupid.
Abbas Araghchi, we're still at war, guys. Okay, remember the fact that we are still at war. Never forget that. A ceasefire is a ceasefire. It's a temporary end to the fighting to try to come to some sort of permanent solution, which would invoke, of course, peace. And so, for lack of a better term, this conflict is ongoing currently, and it's happening as we speak. Just there has not been as much fighting. Two sides are kind of taking a break. Of course, a lot of people introduced the fact or the idea that the United States only proposed a ceasefire so that we can gather our marbles and try a different situation. I think that we may have actually wanted to pull out once we realized how asymmetric this conflict was. But let us not forget that Abbas Araghchi, the Minister of Foreign Affairs, opened the strait, or he said he didn't open the strait himself. Of course, it's the IRGC and the Supreme Leader who have final say. But Abbas Araghchi announced on Twitter just a few days ago, we are opening the Strait of Hormuz, you know? And so that was a big step in the right direction, because that was Iran displaying, at least physically with their actions, that they don't want a long-winded conflict either. And so they want to help the United States, or at least kind of come to some sort of middle ground. Now, are they going to give up the strait entirely? Obviously not, because the war's not over. That has been their weapon to get the United States to the table. Why would they let go of that weapon when the United States has not actually come to the table with a valid peace proposal? Do you think they're going to actually open the Strait of Hormuz again? The answer, if this war continues on, is likely not. And if they do, it will be heavily fortified by the Iranian military, and they will make sure they make money on every single ship. We can continue to block those Iranian oil ports, but us blocking those Iranian ports, not oil ports, but just ports for goods,
it just makes sense.
Us blocking those ports are not nearly as painful as the Strait of Hormuz being blocked for the entire world. That's 1/5 or 20% of the world's oil. By the way, the Gulf countries are suffering economically as a result. They're not able to export their oil, 80% of which belongs to the Gulf that goes through the Strait of Hormuz, exporting to Asia and Europe. So we had a chance to, even if we didn't want to end this war or look like the losers, although if you have a brain, you know we're the ones who are losing, we had a chance to look a little bit better. But now that we've blocked these ports and in response there's been this whole series of events, likely Iran is not going to open up the Strait of Hormuz again.
Yeah, it's not open
at least
anymore.
Unless they're making a ton of money on it, which they were previously. And of course, Chinese vessels have been passing through without an issue. So you gotta love it.
What would you tell a man who can scroll for hours but can't work?
So guys, this is the end of the stream. That was a very educative, very well conclusion and update that it comes throughout the whole week that has been passed by. As I said before, don't forget to subscribe to Riyadh and Myron Gaines right here. Two people that know what they're saying. But yeah, let's be honest. If Israel was not even part of the deal, everything would be good. Honestly. And I have two competent people actually trying to actually make a deal and a peace offering between everyone. And then things would work well. But yeah, hope you guys enjoyed the stream. As I said before, don't forget to follow me on Kick. We're trying to reach 800 followers. Not only that, we're trying to get verified. So don't forget to watch the stream, participate in the chat, or drop a sub if you want, of course. So can be one step closer towards the verification. We do stream at the same time on YouTube as well. So don't forget to subscribe. We're trying to reach 100 subs. We're currently at 85 subscribers. So don't forget to hit the subscribe button. Go check out the additional content I give to you guys on all the social media. So don't forget to follow me everywhere and check out all the content I give to you guys. And big thank you for your GoTo affiliation. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Hope you guys enjoyed the stream. Peace.